Welcome back, Weirdos and Weeboos, to the Child Publishing Doge, where today I'm doing another spectating, or actually, how about we rename this series? I've just been calling this series Spectating Gold / Bronze / Silver, but I feel like it might be better to rename it so we don't have to keep switching. So, starting with this video, I'll probably start calling it Bargain Bin Coaching, because I guess that's what I am, a bargain bin quote-unquote coach. I'm not actually a professional coach, of course, just to make that clear. I am just someone who loves doing this, and knows that there's a lot of people who want people to review their games on Overwatch University. And just to be clear, I'm not a Grandmaster player, I'm not like a champion player, I'm not top 500. Either way, I hope my advice in this video is taken on its merits, and of course you can feel free to take any of it with a pinch of salt. At the end of the day though, I still feel like it's good for me to give advice here, because of the fact that I'm not really trying to coach Masters or Grandmasters games here. If I was, obviously I'd be like, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm really the guy for this. But often, I'm looking at Gold, Silver, and Bronze, which I definitely think I can handle. You might notice that this video is going a little bit differently than previous ones. Usually, I would watch the entire game all the way through and keep pausing and giving my input, but at the moment I'm just doing my big intro spiel as the game's going in the background and not really commenting on it. And there's a reason for that. I'm gonna go with a bit of a different format for this video. To be quite honest, I don't think I can do this in the normal format where I go through the entire game from beginning to end and keep pausing to make points and things like that. The reason why is because this replay is not only very long, at nearly half an hour in length, but on top of that, almost every team fight is absolute chaos. Now, that on its own isn't exactly unheard of. I've had VODs before that have very chaotic, messy team fights that make no sense, and don't get me wrong, it certainly makes it harder to comment on, but usually it doesn't make it so that, like, I literally don't even try. However, because this game is really long and also practically nothing but extremely messy team fights, I found that trying to record this in the normal format was a mess. Not even necessarily because I couldn't explain everything that was happening, but I would have to change topic every 5 seconds to be able to say what was happening and analyze every fight. And that kind of made the video really hard to follow when, sure, I can cover everything, but I keep jumping back and forth between the same points in rapid succession. I just couldn't get into a flow of things because every 5 seconds I'd think, okay, next point I want to make is this point. I want to make a point of your, I don't know, your positioning or your cooldown usage. And then as I'm trying to make a point of that cooldown usage, I'll watch someone make the most confusing, weirdest, like, backwards play ever, and then watch it actually work, and then that will distract me, and then I'll start trying to analyze how that happened, but then actually, before I can even respond to that, someone pops an ult at no one, and it's like, wait, why did they do that? Okay, hang on a minute, let me analyze why that happened, and you get the idea. It just became a mess. As well as that, just generally, as you're already probably getting a sense for, this video is going to have a bit of a longer intro. So I may as well let you see some good old gameplay in the background while I'm doing the whole intro spiel. Because we're not done yet, this is just the first part of many in this intro. Next up, I have to actually, well, you know, tell you about this game. This is a Gold 5 game from someone who mostly plays Ramattra, but then swaps to Orisa at the end of the game for the final round, classic. Anyway, they apparently used to be a Platinum tank in Overwatch 1, however, of course, standards have increased. Like, it's just a fact. It is harder to be Plat in Overwatch 2 now than it was to be Plat in Overwatch 1 back in the day. So naturally, when you have these players that haven't played in quite a few years who used to be a certain rank and they come back, sometimes they can struggle to reach the same rank they used to be at. So this guy's goal is simply that he wants to not only get back to Plat, but be a consistent Plat player. But at the moment, the highest he's been able to get is Gold 5. So he wants some tips, he wants some pointers. He also appears to be called Paynus. I get it. I also refuse to believe that you are not duoed with Cleo Taurus, because that's just too perfect to be a coincidence. Okay, on a serious note though. They didn't have all too much to say about the game. The main thing they just had to say was that they initially felt like they were one of the better players in this lobby, they felt like they did a really good job, but then, when they watched the replay back, they did notice one thing that bothered them, and that was that they felt like they were dying more than they expected, and would like to figure out why that was happening and how they can avoid that happening so much in the future. With all that said, we're halfway through the intro, but we've only covered the first 2 parts. There's another 2 parts coming. You see, I want to talk about something that actually pertains to practically this whole series, something that I've thought about talking about before and touched on before, but I want to kind of start this video by addressing it. When I initially started making these videos, the whole reason why I wanted to do it was because I really enjoyed like the typical sort of spectating bronze videos you'd see from content creators like Flats or Emong or whatever, where like, you know, they'd roast these players for the way they play. But honestly, I always like the parts where they genuinely try to help them the most, and I felt like that's something I'd like to see more of. People just genuinely watching games from people who feel like they're stuck at low ranks and don't know what they're doing wrong, and can come tell them, hey, yeah, I'm sorry you're struggling, this is what I think you're doing wrong, but this is what I think you're doing right, and this is what I think you're not being appreciated for. You know, try and balance it out. Not to tell these people that they already deserve to be a top rank player, because of course 99% of the time they don't. But to at least tell them, hey man, it's hard. It's harder than people like to give you credit for. And hey, sometimes you're doing the right thing, so to speak, but you're not feeling like you're getting the right results. And you kind of have to know things about the game to understand why it is that you're not getting the results you're looking for. I'd be more specific, but it's a bit hard without going for a specific example, and I don't want to get stuck on a tangent. But I guess one of the most common ones I could say is just generally the idea that you can be really good at a character, but you can have games where you lose hard on that character, because that character just doesn't really do anything useful in a situation. And at the very least, if you have to make them work, you have to change your playstyle. But you don't know that, so you're still playing the character the normal way in a situation where you have to play them differently to make them work, and you might be playing them well if it was a normal game, but you're getting a bad result. So yeah, basically, I wanted to be a bit of a friend to some of these bronze, silver, and gold players that gives them a hand. That being said, ever since I started the series, I've always had a bit of a problem of struggling to balance out the positive with the negative. And I don't even mean that just to roast people, it's just genuinely, it's been hard. Both because often the negative stuff is a lot more complicated to explain, so it takes up more of the video's time. But that's so much I'm not bothered by. What more bothers me is that oftentimes, a lot of the stuff that I can say that's very good is very basic. Almost so basic that, like, even if I tried to say it as a compliment, it might just come across as condescending, or just feel like it adds zero value to the video. Stuff like, well, you know what the abilities do. Stuff like, well, you've got the absolute bare basics of positioning down. Stuff like, well, you hit a decent amount of shots. You know, it doesn't really sound very sincerely, you know, uplifting, even if you do mean it in a sincere manner and it's not some backhanded, well, you're not the worst player in human history. Thankfully, despite that fact, so far, every single one of these I've done has been received relatively well. I'm always careful to make sure that the people that I'm putting on these videos don't feel like they've been picked on, don't feel like I'm cyberbullying them or whatever, and don't feel like my advice has been unhelpful. I mean, I'm realised, especially as someone who doesn't really have the credentials, I'm walking on eggshells a little bit doing something like this. So I've got to make sure that everyone I'm covering is happy with the coverage and happy with the advice I'm giving. And I have to think about it a bit if people aren't. So naturally, one of my biggest concerns when I make these videos sometimes is, I know I'm just trying to be sincerely critical, but I always hope I don't come across as too mean. And yeah, you can probably guess where this is going. I think I'm going to be pretty damn mean in this episode. I feel like I kind of have to be, because what I am seeing is the kind of stuff where, like, it makes me think the only way I can really help this is to do essentially the verbal equivalent of, like, swatting someone's hand when they try to pinch something. So I just want to make it very, very clear from the start of this video that this is all intended very much so to help this person, not roast them. I don't want anyone to come after this person or embarrass this guy or make him feel bad for asking for help. Thankfully, I've never had that happen before doing any of these videos previously as far as I'm aware. You guys seem to have been pretty good about that fact, but I just still want to be careful about it. All that said, I also want to make it clear that just because this might be the meanest I've ever been, maybe we'll see how this goes, that doesn't mean this is literally the worst VOD I've ever seen. It's definitely not good. I'll start off with that. But I have seen worse. But the reason why I am being the meanest on this one is because I feel like I have the least positive to say that isn't already kind of immediately obvious and not very helpful to point out. And like I said, I think a lot of the bad habits on display here are, like, really bad. Like, really, you gotta cut that shit out. And so I am gonna want to get a little bit combative when I see some of these habits in motion. There's also one other reason why I feel I've got to be a little bit mean in this video that I haven't revealed yet, and it's probably one of the biggest ones why I want to be a bit extra cautious here. because I could see some people taking this the wrong way. Like I said earlier, in their initial Reddit post, they said they felt like they were one of the better players in the lobby in this game. And I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't know how they came away thinking that. Like, I wouldn't be very critical of it if it was they hadn't seen the replay, they just played the game, submitted the replay without watching it, and were like, honestly, I don't really remember like how well I did this game. I feel like I did good, and if it turned out they did bad, whatever, that happens. Heck, even I have that sometimes. I have games where I'm like, how the hell did we lose? I felt like I was carrying. And then I'll watch back the replay and it'll be like, okay, I was doing this thing that was pretty impressive, but the reward we actually got off of that would have been really good if this person was in this position, but I didn't realize they actually moved to here. That was a bit weird and unexpected. So actually, this whole fight I was taking was like a massive uphill battle for practically nothing, and I didn't realize that. So I could see why in my head I thought, oh yeah, that was like a carry, I'm doing so good, why are we losing, I'm carrying so hard. And then it's like, oh, actually I watched the replay, and it's like, I mean, it would have been a carry if the map was in the state that I thought it was, but it wasn't, so I misread the situation, and that's kind of my fault. That's normal. But what particularly concerns me is this guy has seen the replay. He specifically said that when he watched the replay, he thought to himself, well, maybe I'm dying a bit too much. And don't get me wrong, obviously the fact that he's even, like, acknowledging, okay, I didn't think I died that much, that's a bit of a problem. That's good, but I must admit, it does concern me a little bit that you've watched this replay and that's all you've really taken from it. Because don't get me wrong, yeah, obviously, you're dying a little too much. Even then, the deaths themselves aren't even really the problem. More so, well, the reason you're dying sometimes is really, really stupid. You'll see as we get along. But that's another reason why I feel like I'm going to be a little mean, because I feel like it needs to be a bit of a wake-up call if you're looking at this and not seeing the problem. With all that said, I know this is a very long intro spiel, so thank you for hearing me out. We will finally start getting into the meat of the actual game. I apologise, I swear we're there now. But where to even begin is already a pretty difficult one. Okay, if I'm going to do the quick bullet point list of what I think you're doing right and what I think you're doing wrong, I think there is one thing you do very, very well. And that one thing you do very, very well is that your left clicks on Ramattra are very good for Gold 5. Like, I'm not going to lie, watching this gameplay, it feels like you should be on DPS, not tank. Because it feels like you're playing Ramattra like a DPS most of the time. And I kind of... In general, almost everything good I have to say is mostly, like, something that would be more of a DPS skill than a tank skill. So I don't know if you've tried DPS, but, I don't know, give DPS a go. There's a couple other smaller things that are kind of good, I have to admit. You know, it's not all bad. That being, for one, I feel like usually when I see gameplay of Ramattras at this rank, they tend to run in with Nemesis form a little bit too much and do a little bit too little blocking. Whereas you, on the other hand, are very patient. You do a lot of blocking. Now, maybe a little too much, maybe you go a little too far in the other direction, but I think you're closer to a sweet spot than most people at this rank are. Lastly, when the situation isn't messy and changing the context of the situation, you are pretty good at target priority. You do kill the kind of people you need to kill first, or at least try to. And that is good, however you don't actually get a lot out of that skill, even if it's better than nothing, because of the fact that the second the situation even gets mildly messy, and the thing that's usually like the obvious target to kill first is no longer the obvious target to kill first, it seems like you aren't able to recognize, okay, this is usually the first target to kill, but because this happened, now it isn't. I feel like we never get to that second step of, okay, so I want to kill Zen first most fights if I get the chance, but naturally most fights I won't get the chance to kill Zen first, and sometimes the reason I won't be able to kill Zen is because of something Ash is doing, or something Sigma's doing, or something whoever else is doing. I feel like that never comes into play. It's always just, and it's not always Zen, but Zen's like probably the one you do it the most with. It's always just, I see Zen, I kill Zen first. And again, it's not terrible. It's better than just killing whoever's in front of you, but I'm just saying it's not quite perfect. Okay, so those are the sort of good points where I can give some compliments. But this is where we get into the territory where it's like, I literally just can't even try to compliment you. I'm sorry. So, I'm going to be pretty brutal here, and honestly, because, in fairness, if I remember correctly, I've only watched it once, so I'm not as well versed on this final round, but I think you did okay on Orisa, if I remember correctly. I do like you taking the shield perk here as well. But either way, bit off topic. Your cooldown management is literally non-existent, at least on Ramattra. Like, this is what I mean by, like, I don't want to be mean, but I kinda have to, I can't sugarcoat it here. I have done, I don't know how many off the top of my head, I think about 6 or 7 of these videos so far, and I've looked at a couple extra VODs that I didn't make into videos because I didn't think they'd make good content. I don't think I have ever seen a game where anyone has had cooldown management as bad as you have on Ramattra in this game. And I don't say that to make you feel like garbage, I just say that because I have to be candid, I have to be straight, I can't sugarcoat it. I think your discipline when it comes to knowing when to use your cooldowns and, like, knowing not to just mash buttons, basically, is abysmal on Ramattra. Like, I have spectated bronze players that I think are at least a little better on that. The other thing as well is your positioning. Now, your positioning isn't god-awful 90% of the time. 90% of the time, I would say it's pretty standard metal rank positioning, which is to say, not good positioning, but not particularly bad or stand out to say you're in Gold 5. You should probably adopt better positioning if you want to climb, but I wouldn't say it's your fault if you lose at this rank with that kind of positioning. It could definitely be improved, but it's not like the end of the world. But that's 90% of the time. The other 10% of the time, I don't know what goes off in your head, but you'll see later, or you might have already seen in the background. There's a couple times where you just kind of giga feed for no good reason, and I can't even pass, like, what's going through your head. It just seems like, why are you here? Why? Other than that, I think you've got a bit of a tunnel vision problem, which is pretty common at these ranks. If anything happens in the corner of your eye, you usually don't notice it. There was actually one moment, I don't know if I'll be able to find it because I don't remember exactly which teamfight it is, but there was one moment which was kind of weird where, despite the fact most of this game you've been playing with really bad tunnel vision, there was one moment where you randomly, like, actually caught something really, like, clever. I feel like I'm kind of blowing all the compliments at the start here, but here we go. This is the moment where you actually break the tunnel vision problem, because you see that bullet fly from the ash and you notice her. And I know that might seem small, but, like, genuinely, I would not have even blamed you, at least at this rank, for not seeing, like, the ash there. Like, I would just be like, yeah, this ash was here, and, like, you know, if you have better awareness, you would have noticed. But I would also go, that would be pretty hard to spot, to be fair. There's a decent chance I would have even missed that if I was playing, you know, if there was enough going on. I might not have noticed that one bullet. Depends on how loud the sound was to me, you know, how clear it was, but still. But no, you caught that. That's very good. But this is what I mean by, like, weird moments where you do very good at something, but then for the rest of the game, it just kind of isn't there. Because, like, I feel like for the rest of this game, you've got pretty bad tunnel vision. It feels like you're only aware of things that are directly in front of you. And if anything isn't directly in front of you, you're not aware of it. And, like, it's not even just, like, you're not, like... I'm not even saying you need to have complete understanding of everything that's happening everywhere. But, like, it's not even like you have approximate knowledge. Like, you don't even have, like, even the beginnings of, like, a general area of what's going on in other areas aside from what's directly in front of you. That's, like, the problem. But, again, weirdly enough, you have, like, really good awareness on that one ash flank, which, I mean, it's good! it's just kind of weird. It's a bit of a... It kind of stands out. Ult usage is a bit of a tough one for me to call, because you have a couple ults that are basically useless, and a couple ults that are huge, and I was kind of like, do I give you credit for the good ults? And I'm not gonna lie, I'm sorry, I'm gonna choose to be strict. I think your ult usage is poor. I don't think it's god-awful, but I will also say, I feel like this game didn't give me enough information to say solidly how bad I thought it was. So, basically, when you got a good ult, it looks like, wow, you're doing so much, but then I look at the replay and it's like, wait, actually, that ult wasn't going to work unless your Mei hit this wall, and your Ana gave you nano, and your Ana hit this nade. And that doesn't mean you made the wrong play by using ult, obviously you should, but it is also like, that's not really you that set up that play. You just kind of hit the button. Everyone else did all the setup to make your annihilation huge, you just pressed the button. And in other situations where you don't get lots of setup to make your ultimate very easy and effective to use, it does seem like you just kind of blow it, either on things that don't really need it, or in situations where it doesn't do anything. Whew, okay, so, I know, So much to cover before we even get to started. So, a lot to unpack on this one. Those are essentially the bullet lists of like the important points, the outline sort of what I'm going to be saying here. So soon we're going to get into watching some specific fights in this match. But one last thing I want to cover, I'm sorry, before we get into that, is team comps. Alright, so KFC for everyone over here is swapping every 5 seconds. So just so you know, they are not going to be on Pharah for long. Cleo starts out on Kiri but moves to Brig. But other than that, I believe you have Ana throughout the entire game. You obviously play Ramattra for the entire game except the last round. And your DPS, I believe, is always on Mei, the one that isn't swapping every 5 seconds at least. As is right now, before you walk out the door, this comp is great for you for the most part. The only thing you could maybe ask for if you want to be extremely picky is you might like a hit scan on a map like this. But naturally, I'm not saying you should tell your teammates, hey, can we have a hit scan, even if you're going to be nice about it. Like, it's up to you. It's up to your own discretion, but unfortunately we are kind of in a bit of a point with Overwatch, where even just asking nicely for someone to swap when you don't actually mean it in a mean way, people get very defensive, and I can't even blame them that much because people do so often only ask people to swap if they are implying that they suck. Either way, you can take your own discretion with that one. I personally would say that it's too much trouble. This is already a pretty good comp. You don't need a hit scan here, even if you would like one, so I wouldn't bother like telling anyone, oh, swap to hit scan. Especially because while Mei isn't ideal for fighting hit scans, if they're a decent Mei's pretty good at least dueling hit scans and being awkward for them to kill while taking up their attention, and sometimes she can win those duels. It's an uphill battle for her, but it's nowhere near as uphill or one-sided as with some other characters, especially a lot of tanks. Generally though, everything in this comp plays to your strengths. Ramattra is one of the highest resource tanks in the game. In other words, probably him and Orisa are the 2 tanks that require the most healing to be effective. And thankfully for you, you get to pair that with an extremely greedy backline, Ana Kiri. A very strong backline when it's allowed to get away with it, because of course you get Suzu, Sleep, and Anti, as well as having 2 very high healing output characters, which is just perfect for you. Basically the only thing that could have been better is maybe a speed boost, but other than that, this is basically exactly what you want as a Ramattra player, as your support line. The Mei's great too, because obviously the Mei can play on the front line with you and wall the enemy tank. The only thing that doesn't play to your strengths is Pharah, but even then, it's kind of nice to have a Pharah here, because if you did go all in on playing around Ramattra's strengths, you would really struggle to deal with enemies that are playing around corners or high up, and obviously Pharah can reach those enemies that no one else on your team can. So this comp is honestly pretty good for your purposes. But why am I going through this comp so thoroughly? Again, you only get to pick the tank, you don't get to pick anything else. And as I say, I'm not even recommending you ask people to swap. So why cover the comp so thoroughly? Well, that's because I think it's important to understand what your job is as a tank, and it's also important to understand that what your job is can change depending on what your comp is, even if you don't change character. Essentially, what you can infer by looking at this comp is that you will get the resources you need to be a monster on the front line. You have walls to help you against the enemy tank, you have anti-nades from your Ana, you have sleeps, you have Suzu if you take too much damage, and you have more than enough healing. In terms of being able to win on the front line, your team should basically be favoured against anything except like a Malga that's hard-pocketed. So you're not really worried about the front line. You're going to be great on the front line, provided it's close quarters enough. Where you're going to struggle are the other 2 areas. You're going to struggle in long-range fights. You can still play in them, because both you and Mei are decent at poking to say that you're not built for it. And you've got an Ana, and obviously she's got some pretty good range, even if she hasn't really got the kill power, and she might need some help setting up on an angle. But the other thing you've really got to watch out for is people diving your backline. Mei is very well equipped to deal with that, but that's basically the only character on your team who's very good against that. Ana gets to be a very valuable support in this game when left uncontested because of the fact that she's also very vulnerable to dive. Now, obviously pro meta isn't like gold competitive Overwatch. I'm not saying that you have to play it this way, but just so you have a frame of reference, if you're playing like high level pro games of Overwatch, you basically always run an Ana with something like a Brig, or a Lucio at the very least. And probably the only exception is Juno. Point being, most supports that you want to run with Ana are supports that are going to be good at protecting Ana. Now, Ana Kiri is one of the few examples of a more greedy Ana comp where you don't run someone like a Brig to bodyguard the Ana. And it can work because, again, the reward of running this support comp is very, very high. And again, because it's gold, it's not like everyone's going to be perfectly punishing you for leaving your Ana open. They're gold players. They're not always going to be the best at identifying when to punish Ana, and even if they can identify when, they might just not have the mechanics to pull it off. That being said, that doesn't mean you get to not think about it at all. With Ana Kiri, if the Ana gets dove, she can get Suzu, which definitely buys time for her. So they can still be pretty hard to kill if your team has the ability to come back and help the Ana, or if the Ana Kiri are good enough at dueling that they can fend for themselves. But if the Ana Kiri aren't hitting a lot of shots and it's difficult for them to fight off the flankers, and if your team is never really coming back to help them, even when they buy you extra time to be able to do it, then they're going to be getting eaten alive in the backline quite frequently. So okay, I know this has been quite wordy so far, I just want to walk you through all of this so that none of it is going over your head. To be clear, what this essentially means is, before this game even starts, you have some information. Most likely, you are going to win basically every frontline trade if your team can set up as intended. Which, most team fights they will, but some team fights they won't. Naturally, this means there are two things you need to be concerned about. A, will there be some reason why my other teammates can't set up and support me, which would usually be someone diving your backline, and what can I do to prevent that? And B, what if I get forced into a situation where despite being a devastating frontline presence, I can't actually use it because they're too far away? Now, of course, we don't have answers to these questions yet, because of the fact that the match hasn't started yet. While we can cheat and see right now, if we're putting ourselves in your shoes, you don't know what the enemy comp is yet, so you don't know quite what the answers to those questions are yet, and that's fine. But at the very least, I kind of want you to be aware of, before the match even starts, you can kind of know, hey, I've got this kind of backline, it's good at this, but it's vulnerable to this. It will enable me to do this, and that will make us win if they are this. You know? Because I know when I put it like that, it's all very vague and wishy-washy, but essentially what that means, if you put it in the context of this game, is if you can get up close and you can get support, you will win every single team fight, which I know applies to most tanks, but especially in this situation, with such a greedy backline, with such a high resource tank getting all the resources they need, and a Mei on top of that, you will win every frontline fight. And so, you will lose if you can't fight on the front line, or if your supports can't give you support because they're being dove. And so being able to understand your win condition also helps you understand your lose conditions, and therefore understand what it is you're playing around. So, okay, if we play this for a sec, you get to see that they have an Ashe, they hilariously die straight away, and don't get me wrong, good shot, but also, that is stupid that you get away with that. That Ashe basically just asked to die. She stood still. Like, I'm not even saying, like, you don't deserve any credit for that. That's also, yeah, it was a good shot. But I'm just letting you know, like, there is no way that's going to keep working as you rank up. Like, you can definitely get poke damage off of that. You can scare them off, but I don't think you're going to get kills that way, like, past Gold 5. Like, it's kind of ridiculous that that Ashe just stood still and took that. But yeah, Ashe is dead, so now already it is a 5v4 for you. What a great advantage. So you know they have an Ashe. You see Genji. Okay, so Ashe Genji, there's the DPS. You waste a shield, we'll get to that in a moment. Zarya, Ana, Zen. Okay, we know the comp now. So it doesn't take long, we know all the enemy players now. So this is a little bit annoying. Zarya is one of the few tanks that can maybe stand up to you on the front line, and Ana Zen are very, very good at punishing you for being so reliant on heals, both with Discord Orb and Sleep Dart and Anti-Nade. Ashe is also a little bit of a rough one for you, because obviously a lot of the times you can't reach her to do much about her. That being said, because you have the Kiri with the Suzu, Anti isn't as much of a concern as it could be otherwise, and the Mei wall still will be devastating to Zarya, so when the Mei wall comes down, you should still be able to run Zarya over. So now we know what both comps are, we can put the sort of knowledge I was putting into place earlier into use in this situation. I can look at these two comps and go, okay, because you are a Ramattra with two supports that are really, really good with you, you will win on the front line, but it might not always be immediate, and you might be a bit reliant on Mei walls to get those wins. So you want to create situations where Mei can come to the front line with you, and your support aren't threatened. And when those situations arise, that's when you want to full send it. If you do lose on the frontline fight, it will probably be because you spent way too much time just standing in the line of sight of Ana, Zen, and Ashe, and so they got too much free damage on you, and you didn't do enough with your presence to compensate for all the damage you're taking. Or it could be because Kiri just screwed up her Suzu. But assuming you've set up your team to help you, those are the only two ways realistically you're going to lose on the front line in a game like this. But that just leaves one last thing to be concerned about. You actually have to make sure that your supports are safe to take an angle where they can see you on the front line so that they can heal you safely. Or at least safely enough. And who would be a threat to that? Well, I'm hoping you already know the answer is Genji, but I will also add Ashe should be included in that list. Not because Ashe is going to dive your supports, though you never know, we see some weird plays in this game, but more so because sometimes you get the chance to just run past Ashe. And I'm not saying that's literally always wrong, but just know you're playing a dangerous game when you do that. Like, sure, you have tons of health, and while Ashe does get to do free damage to you as long as she can see you, she doesn't get to kill you any quicker, she just kind of has the ability to not be fought back against. What that means is there are some situations where you kind of ignore Ashe, and I understand that, because you're not often in an easy position to do much about her because she's too far away or too high up. And I mean, while she is damaging you and you prefer it if she wasn't, she isn't like killing you on the spot, and she isn't discording you, and she isn't anti-ing you. But what you gotta be careful of is you gotta make sure you're not trying to play in a position where the only way your supports can help you is to walk into Ashe's line of sight. Because you do that a few times this game, and a decent amount of support deaths were because they just felt like they had to follow you into a fight, and so they walk out right in front of Ashe's line of sight and get their heads blown off. Don't get me wrong, Genji is still definitely the more significant threat, but I just want to also point out that there are situations where Ashe is the threat because you kind of ignore her. Put it this way, the backline has to move forward with you as you push in so that it can still see you. Usually Ashe would never have a chance to shoot the backline because it's at the back, but if you walk so far forward and force the backline to follow you that the backline ends up being at the front with you, that means that, well, they can't hide from Ashe anymore. So Ashe doesn't have to worry about the issue of how do I even reach the backline, I can't see them, the backline is just forced to walk right into her, and she goes, oh, free kill. Also, this whole time I've been ignoring something very funny. So let's just watch something funny for a nice little break from all this boring hyper over-analysis. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Like I said, I think KFC for everyone is probably the worst player in this lobby. So hey, there's your consolation prize. You're only second worst. I'm sorry. Imagine getting diffed by a Genji as Pharah. So yeah, I know I was very wordy here, but I wanted to give all this detail because while I understand that literally all of this isn't probably going to pop into your head before the game's even started, like, we have spent so much time paused. I probably spent nearly 10 minutes talking about this, I don't know off the top of my head. And obviously you only have like a minute to think about this. So I'm not saying you need to be this far along the train of thought, but you need to at least start going through this train of thought. Obviously for me, it doesn't actually take that long to think of all this stuff, because obviously it's already kind of baked into my head. Like, you know, it's a bit weird the first time when you're learning things, you know, you have to take time to learn them, but once you've already learned them, it's just like, oh, I see Anakiri, I immediately know everything I need to know, you know? It's like, I don't have to think about what Anakiri means. I've seen Anakiri so many times, and I've played it myself, and I've played with it as a tank, that I know what it means when I see Anakiri, and I don't really have to think about the implications, I just know the implications. And you'll pick that up as you go. Obviously you won't have that right now, just because I assume you haven't been back to Overwatch 2 for that long. But yeah, actually this is a better way to phrase it. I want to focus in on this so much because I feel like you actually are pretty good at identifying what is scary for you as Ramattra and what you don't want to deal with. Like, I can tell that whether the way you go about respecting the damage that Zen can put out is correct, we'll get to that later, you do understand the threat Zen poses. I can see that whenever you get a chance to kill Zen, you are out for blood and you want him dead immediately. So, clearly you understand, at least when it comes to Ramattra, characters that are going to make your life hard and characters that aren't. And that's good, but I feel like a problem you have is you only know the characters that are going to have impact on your outcomes. You seem kind of oblivious to how other enemies that aren't that much of a threat to you might shut down your other teammates. And to be fair, probably everyone at this rank is like that generally. But I definitely think it would help you a lot if you understood what it is that is shutting down your other teammates. Because if you need those teammates to enable the plays you're going to make, you can't ignore a target just because the target isn't scary to you. If it's scary to your teammates, you got to do what you can to deal with them. That doesn't mean don't try and kill Zen. Generally, if the situation presents itself, kill Zen is pretty good advice. But you'll see as we go, there's a couple examples of moments where I feel like you ignore things that should be being dealt with. And at least from what I see, it seems to me that you're ignoring them just because it's not something Ramattra's scared of, even if maybe everyone else on your team are very concerned about that enemy. Okay, so while I said I wasn't going to do an analysis of every team fight in chronological order like I usually do, I might do a bit of a mini one just for the first couple. So, they get the anti off on you, that kind of sucks, but you don't, feed, you don't just run out there, you know to play the corner, that's good at least. You block, you just kind of wait it out. You maybe don't have to hold block this entire time. I know that she's got bubble up, but I would probably just run up to her, like just drop block just to run faster. Just because the wall is down, this is your chance, this is your chance to kill Zarya. And you do have a lot of health left. Like, if I drop this, you have a lot of health left. I know that anti-heal is very dangerous, and I'm glad that you understand that. It's definitely better that you understand that, but I do think in this situation where you got this much health left, and you got the wall, and this is kind of your window to kill the Zarya, I'll be running over. It's just a small thing, because of course, you do still get her, if I remember correctly. You do get her right here. It's been a bit already. Oh, no, never mind, you don't get her. Yeah, it probably wouldn't have made a difference anyway. Oh, I misclicked, sorry. It probably wouldn't have made a difference anyway, to be fair, because it would only have gotten you a little closer to her. It might have given you 1 or 2 more punches, but it probably wouldn't have killed her. We will talk about the Genji in a second. Just, as I say, a lot happens. To be fair, this is one of the less chaotic team fights as well, but there's already a lot that I could talk about that I kind of have to ignore to go one thing at a time. Yeah, we're a teeny bit lost, but I mean, understandable at least. Ooh. Honestly, I thought I remembered this first team fight, but clearly I've forgotten a decent amount of it. I remember the wall at the start, but everything from there kind of went blurry. So yeah, we've been kind of ignoring the Genji. We have been spending a lot of time in the line of sight of the Ana Zen. We have been spending a lot of resources on punching the Zarya, and we haven't killed her yet. This is... Yeah, this is pretty bad. Okay, because if we just... Okay. The third person this for a moment. I hate that the controls in this are so slow. But yeah, basically, you should be able to see right now that Zarya ain't dying here. She's full HP. You are standing in the line of sight of Ana and Zen and not dealing with them. And I understand that you can't reach them, but like you're not even looking at them. And if it was because this Zarya was 1, I would understand. But that Zarya is full HP, man, and still getting pocket. Like, you are not killing that Zarya. You... So it's questionable to run into the plain line of sight of the 2 supports that counter you, and the Ashe, which you are also ignoring, to go try and punch the face of the Zarya that's not in a position to die anyway. The Mei also just screwed up her wall, which, don't get me wrong, that's not your fault. That is the Mei's fault. It's going to happen sometime. They got a good wall, they got a bad wall. But, like, because they just screwed up her wall, and as I mentioned, when Mei walls is going to be your #1 opportunity to kill Zarya, that should be the signal to you that you're not pumping the gas right now. Like, when your teammates just go to use an ability that's like a cooldown, it's an ability they can't use all the time, it's only every now and then, something like a nade or a sleep. When they go to use something like a nade or sleep, or in this case a wall, and it just fails, it just nothing. Don't get me wrong, that's not your fault, obviously that's the teammate that missed their cooldown or whatever, but you can't just ignore that, man. You have to register in your head, okay, well that was the thing that was going to kill Zarya if I pushed in, and it just missed. So I guess I, pump the brakes a little bit here, just step back a little and play it a little slow until we got our cooldowns back. So yeah, bingo. So, elephant in the room, I guess. Do we cover the elephant in the room? Sure. Okay. Man, I can't believe I'm getting to this before I'm even getting to your cooldown usage, but I guess this first fight, well, there's a few examples. I want to hold off before I talk about your cooldowns. Let's just see how far back I have to go for the start of the game. Okay, right, here we go. So I just want to show you the enemy Genji's perspective in this game, because you might notice it's very different from your perspective. So you see him briefly here, so you do know they have a Genji. And of course, he diffs KFC for everyone, which that one isn't your fault, that's just Farah getting diffed. And I get it, he's in this awkward position where you can't really do much about him. He's high up, you don't really have an angle on him, I get it. But you should kind of be aware he's still here, because you might notice that you're forcing your supports to walk directly into his path, and then he's doing all this battling in the back, and you're unaware, and he even walks right past you and you ignore him. I'm not sure if you registered he was there mentally, and you just didn't decide to do anything, because it's difficult to do something about it, or what. But look, like, this entire time, it's like you don't even know he exists, and he killed your Farah again. He is about... Yeah, okay, there goes your Kiri. There goes your Ana. There goes your Mei. Oh no, Mei lives with 1 health, technically. But yeah, you see how you kind of like... Okay. Actually, this is also almost even better. If I go back and watch your perspective of this team fight again, just one more time. You might notice that, like, you seem to die rather suddenly, even to say, like, because don't get me wrong, you were in the line of sight of a lot of damage, but you were in a line of sight for a lot of damage for the entire first half of this team fight, and you were fine. Like, you still have 3/4 of your health left when you're taking all this damage, and it's like, yeah, that's because you're getting healed, and you have all this armor, and you have all these cooldowns, you have all these abilities. And even still here, honestly, to be honest, it's kind of crazy that you're, like, you know, you're not dying here, but, like, yeah, you're not dying here. And then it's hereabouts, where it's like, okay, you're not getting healed, you're living on half health for quite a while, and uh-oh, and you might notice that if you watch it back, that timing at which you are just not getting anything done, by being on the front line, you're kind of being useless, that coincides with the timing that that the enemy Genji is causing chaos in the back line. So yeah, essentially, the reason I want to point this out is because it might seem at first like, well, don't get me wrong, I'm sorry that I didn't help my supports there, but what am I supposed to do about it? Because, like, I agree, in fairness, you're not killing this Genji right here. Like, at this point, nah, you ain't killing Genji. You ain't killing Genji. He's up there, you have no way to reach high ground, you are not a dive tank, you don't have the best range. The only thing you can maybe hit him with is Ravenous Vortex, which even then he might deflect. So, like, yeah, you can't do anything about him right now. But you should at least mentally register, he's back there, and I need to be careful about the fact that my supports kind of need to play from here. I need to be aware, I need to be listening out for Genji dash or deflect, and I need to be able to run back when he starts using them, so that I can be like, oi, 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 what's all this then? Especially because then Ana throws her nade. Like, you hear the nade splash, and you should be thinking, oh, yeah, they're coming for my Ana. I understand that you can't see it, but because you saw Genji was here earlier, and because you know, like, where else your support's going to be but here, you're kind of forcing them to play from here, like, right where the Genji wants them. I'm not saying, like, again, it's a tough situation. I'm not going to deny it's a tough situation. You get situations like this a lot on tank, where it's like, I don't want to force my supports to play from here, but I literally physically can't deal with this threat. So I have to make them play from here, and I just have to be aware that threat is in play. It's not necessarily that you haven't dealt with the threat that bothers me, it's that I feel like the way you're playing is like you're not even aware this threat is in play, and I'm guessing that's because you're not. So essentially what I'm saying is the second you start hearing cooldowns getting used, the second you start hearing like that your Ana's using nade to stay alive, that the Genji is dashed in, that he's using deflect, you have to be turning around. Now, whether it be that you run over and try and punch him, it depends. I probably wouldn't do quite that, because you're probably not going to reach him in time. He will probably slip away before you get the chance to punch him, and on top of that, you will obviously give up the front line, and who knows, maybe Zarya walks up and causes a bunch of damage because you give up space, but I might at least, instead of fighting here, I would fight closer to your supports, and you can still actually be looking at the Zarya, but just back things up so your supports don't have to play this far forward. If your supports can be like, okay, well, since our tank backed up a bit, we can now, instead of having to play from here where it's easy for the Genji to shred us up, we can start playing from back here and get a bit more distance to work with, and then it's a bit rougher for this Genji to come after us because our Ramattra is playing further back. And then obviously you can walk back forward once the Genji is no longer a concern. As well as that, while I wouldn't recommend necessarily just running at the Genji and punching him, you know what I would recommend? Ravenous Vortex. So again, we'll cover it more thoroughly later, but you waste cooldowns all the time, man. And the most infamous one, to me, is probably Ravenous Vortex. And to be honest, I'm not even really pointing the finger at specifically you here. From what I've seen, the average Ramattra player has this problem, although you do have it particularly bad. It seems like most Ramattra players think that Ravenous Vortex is essentially a non-existent cooldown, that it doesn't do anything, and as a result, you should just throw it out for free ult charge. And don't get me wrong, naturally, yes, it doesn't come from nowhere. Compared to most of his other cooldowns, Ravenous Vortex is definitely Ramattra's least impactful ability. However, I think one big thing that people need to understand about it is that it becomes far more valuable when you use it to punish misplays rather than to just throw it out for free ult charge. Like, sure, if you throw out your Ravenous Vortex on a full HP tank, or even a full HP Ana or Zen like this, but from this far away, even if you hit the shot, like the Ravenous Vortex, I mean, you're probably not going to actually kill them off that Vortex, or even get that much damage. The slow probably isn't going to be that detrimental, it's not going to be that great. But, you know what, where it would be really great? On this Genji. Because you know where his escape route is? It's to wall climb up here. But if you Ravenous Vortex him, he can't dash, he can't wall climb. He's a sitting duck. Like, the only reason that Genji is so hard to kill is because he can jump around all over the place. If he can't jump, can't wall climb, can't dash, you've basically just turned him from a hyper-mobile cyborg ninja into a really, really disappointing Torb turret. So right now, in the perfect world where you haven't used Vortex yet, and you know Genji's here, you, at this point, would turn around, check on your supports, Genji's there, I'm going to try and throw my Vortex over at him, and suck him down to the ground so that my Anakiri can kill him easily and get back to healing me. In the meanwhile, once I turn away, obviously you turn, throw, and then turn back to the front line, and I'm just going to fight this corner just so Zarya doesn't walk on them, but I'm not actually trying to kill Zarya or kill anyone here. I'm just trying to tell Zarya, no you don't walk over to where my supports are and run them over. If you do, I'm going to punch you. Now again, it's not all on you. In fairness, while this Mei is trying to be helpful, because she's playing on the front line with you, where she's most effective, she also, as I said, is the best character on your team in terms of being well-equipped to deal with Genji, and she ain't here. And that's kind of a bit of a 50-50, because on one hand, again, she's most effective on the front line, and she can't always be in the back line babysitting the supports, but on the other hand, you know, if she knew the Genji was up there, she probably should have stayed with supports and waited for him to come down so that she could come help. It does suck a little bit for you, but at the end of the day, of course, we're not asking for perfect teammates here, and generally speaking, this Mei has been pretty helpful, especially with that first wall that was very big, even if the second wall was a bit of a flop. So, yeah. That's basically what I really want to point out, is this is where you want your Ravenous Vortex right here. And that's what you need to do to deal with this Genji. At the very least, as I already covered, when I do these videos, I tend to leave a written comment before I make the video. On the post, and I already got a response from the guy who posted this. So if you're watching this, you already know that I told you that at the very least, if you can't deal with this, if you don't have the awareness or the confidence in your aim that you can hit the Vortex from here, or you didn't save your Vortex because you didn't think that far through it, if that happens, at the very least, I'm fine with you saying, I can't deal with this Genji. Like, it's tough. Like, you're not really well-equipped to deal with flankers on Ramattra. Ravenous Vortex is basically the only thing you have to punish them. I understand that. And again, Ravenous Vortex, while I'm still saying it's being underrated and that people throw it out and waste it when they shouldn't, I'm not going to ignore the fact it's definitely his least significant ability. All that being said, I would at the very least play like you don't have supports until it's over. Whether the Genji kills them or they kill the Genji. At least until you know, okay, my supports are fine now, you need to think, okay, I should play like I don't have support, because my supports, they can't be helping me right now. They got their hands full. So yeah, that's why I say, like, it's just important to know he's here. Like, again, it's fine that you saw the Genji here and you're like, I can't do anything about that. But if you know he's here, you know that when you're fighting here, don't just forget he's here. You know that you check back here when you hear sounds and look for Ravenous Vortex, and even if you can't hit that, at the very least you can play knowing when I hear that sound, I know that now I'm backing the fuck up. I'm not, like, pushing in any further with no supports. So, yeah. Anyway. Let's see if there's anything else I want to pick out about this team fight. As I say, you spend... Oh, yes, that's the other thing. So... Basically, again, like I said, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. Okay, this is a bit ridiculous. Sorry, I'm trying to stay on topic, but this is what I mean with, like, ridiculous shit that just happens that gets me off topic. Like, I genuinely don't even know if you mentally registered where that Genji came from. Okay, right, sorry. That's the tunnel vision in action. But yeah, sorry. So, you spend basically this entire team fight like, in this area, like, in this sort of circle of area I'm kind of spinning around right now. Do you see the problem with that? Like, I'm not saying it's the worst positioning possible. This is why I wanted to phrase it like 90% of the time your positioning is what I would expect from this rank. As in, I'm not saying that you're being uniquely stupid positioning here. I mean, your supports can heal you. It's not crazy stupid. You can see the enemies and shoot them. I guess that's nice. And, like, I guess if you can make this area safe, if you can be enough of a threat, you can take it, and this would be a nice angle to have. The main problem is, as a tank, I feel like a lot of people talk about it like you walk into a space and then it's yours. And it's not quite that simple, as you could probably guess. Just because you're here doesn't mean you've really made this corner very securely your team's space. Because of the fact that, naturally, there's quite a lot of threats poking at you here. And if you could threaten them back, maybe you could make this area safe for your supports to walk up into, and they could use this angle. But you can't threaten them back, at least not substantially enough. Your range is just too short. So how do you play around this? Because I'm not going to lie, yes, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. If you're playing someone like Ramattra in a situation like this, it'd be so much easier if you're just a dive tank. Obviously, I say that as if dive tanks are easy to play. Obviously, they tend to be some of the hardest tanks in the game to play well, but strategically, it would be so much easier. It would just be like, okay, I see that there's an Ana Zen that are in the back, and while they're pretty far in the back, they're also like really vulnerable to dive and really greedy. So I just go Winton, I just walk up to this corner, I go like, yeet, and then I land on the Ana, I bubble off her sleep dart and anti, I go fighting here for a bit, I see if I get a kill, even if I don't, I jump back, and the Zarya has to walk back to help her supports, which means that Zarya will be playing from this corner now, everyone will walk back to this corner to save their supports, so even if I don't get to kill them, when I walk back, this entire section of the map is now ours because they're forced back to this corner. You know, something that simple. But because you're a Ramattra and you just have to walk there, it's tough for you. I acknowledge that. But even then, I've got to critique you. You are spending way, way too much time in these fights, standing in the line of sight of enemies you don't want shooting you, and not really being able to threaten them back, while also not being near cover. You might notice that, say, okay, I know there's no D.Va in this game, but say a D.Va bomb just got dropped right in front of you. You could probably just about make it, but, like, you're not making it easy for yourself to run to cover. Now, obviously, there's no D.Va bomb here, but, you know, there is something like you can see Zen orbs being charged. If, like, say you didn't know Zen was charging those orbs, and then you see it at the last second, and you need to dive to cover in less than a second to not get hit, because you're playing right in the middle, you're not going to be able to reach cover in time. Whereas if you were maybe playing more, like, from here, I know it seems like a really small difference, it's like from here to here, but from here, orbs start flying at you, they all miss, and then walk back out. And you don't lose any, like, ability to be threatening. You still get to be just as threatening as you are right now, which isn't that threatening, but it's something. But you also get to take less damage. Now, beyond that, you might notice that if you start playing from this corner, hang on a minute, this is starting to look quite interesting. So don't get me wrong, once you walk past here, you're not getting healed by your supports. But you do have a small health pack, and you do have, notably, shorter sight lines. So what I'm basically suggesting is, I would say, either deal with the Genji and then walk up, and you can just walk down main in that situation if you manage to deal with the Genji, because then it's a 3v4. I'd say that you've got a decent chance of winning that. Or, I would say if you're not going to deal with the Genji, considering your Mei's here as well especially, so like you got a double team going, I would start walking this way. And I probably wouldn't walk up here, considering Ashe is about to come out of here, but I would probably try and walk from behind the billboard and try to either play from here, and if you get in trouble, just run to the health pack, run over here, get back to your supports. You don't need to constantly be on life support with your supports. You just have to not be so far from them you couldn't get back to them if you needed them. So yeah, I would play from here, probably play this sort of wall a bit, and see if you can maybe even cheekily get in here. And if you can get in here, then there's a mega health pack there, you can sneak around the back. It's a lot more easy to access these supports, rather than just kind of standing down the middle. It's less so about, like, oh, you gotta be more aggressive or you gotta be more passive. It's more so about, like, okay, right, so long sight line plus characters that bully me on long sight lines equals bad. Where do I not get bullied? Here. Okay, I want to get closer to them, but, like, if I just walk like this, the obvious way, like, I'm gonna get bullied. So, where's the next place I can walk to where they don't get to bully me, but I get closer to them? Oh, it's here. And then where's the next place? Well, this is a bit more awkward, but it could be here. I could block them off with this little bit. And then it's like, oh, hang on a minute, and then I'm close to a health pack. You get the idea. It's like, it's a multi-step process. I know it seems like really, really small and obvious, but like at the same time, because it's multiple steps, you can like easily not really think it through in like a fast-paced game. But I definitely think that would make it a lot more feasible for you to get something done here, because you're definitely not getting anything done by punching this Zarya, unless there's a wall up by Mei, or unless everyone is here focus firing the Zarya, neither of which are true at the moment. I do like you getting the health back here, in fairness. Yeah, this is another, like, ooh, you know what, actually? This is exactly what I mean with, like, the peeking thing and, like, wanting to be closer to cover. Because, first of all, okay, just generally speaking, my guy, just get out. Just get out. Just, what are you even doing still here? Just get out. Just get out. Just get out. Just, for the love of God, get out. But, other than that, I don't know why the camera's here. Let's watch that in slow-mo, actually. So you see these 3 threats looking at you. You see Discord Orb. You know there's a fully charged Zarya behind you. You know your Mei's basically dead. You know your Ana's dead. You know your Kiri's dead. Like, why are we re-peaking the Ana Zen Ashe with Discord Orb? And, like, not only re-peaking them, but at the very least, if you're going to do that, play cover. Play close to the wall. I don't care you're a tank. You still like having cover. Cover is infinite HP. You are finite HP. Like, I would just keep walking back here in the first place. Even if you are going to walk back out and go for a cheeky little poke, you got to be closer to the wall to do this, man. You can't be doing this with... and walking away from the wall so that you don't have time to get... Yeah. It's... No. It's not good. It's not good. Anyway, that's the first team fight. Okay. I'm gonna crash out, man. This is the section of the video where I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna be a little pissed at you. So, as I say, I think your cooldown management is god-awful. I think it is non-existent. I think it is literally worse than bronze players I've spectated on this series. And I feel like I have to just be direct with that. Nemesis form isn't as bad, but I don't even want to give you the points on Nemesis form. Basically, it's mostly your usage of shield and Ravenous Vortex, but I don't even want to give you points for not being as bad on Nemesis form, because the only reason you're not as bad on Nemesis form seems to be because you understand that you just hit Nemesis form to not die, which, I guess, yeah, if you just follow that rule, you'll be right most of the time. But I'm not going to lie, I'm not saying that there's no, thought to it, but generally Nemesis form is a pretty easy cooldown to use. It is usually just, oh, I'm gonna die, let's hit Nemesis form to not die. So, like, I mean, cool, guess it's pretty good you got that, but generally speaking, even your usage of Nemesis form isn't particularly good, it's just not particularly bad. There's only really one point where I noticed that you used a bad Nemesis form. I don't remember where exactly it was in the game, because it wasn't very noteworthy, but there was a moment where you had shield up, and you were looking down a long sightline before a fight started, and you were getting shot, and instead of putting up shield, you just popped Nemesis form and held block, and the cover was right there. You could have just gone behind cover and not got shot, but for whatever reason you didn't do that. You just stood in the open holding block. So obviously that was a pretty bad use of Nemesis form. And quite frankly, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that you did that play because you're so used to not having a shield, you just assumed that you didn't have it and hit Nemesis form. But either way, yeah, it's mostly shield and Ravenous Vortex I want to zero in on. So much so, I may have done a little counting again. So I watched back this entire replay, and I wanted to see, could I find any examples of you doing anything good with any of your abilities? Nemesis form, the only thing I could find is situations where you basically just use it to live, and there's quite a few of those in fairness, but that's because it's, again, pretty obvious. Just, I'm gonna die, hit Nemesis form, hold block, now I don't die. It was really shield and Ravenous Vortex I wanted to look at. And well, we'll be generous to start. Let's show the good uses of shield you had. This is the first one, so for some reason, I don't know why, your soldier's an idiot, and is like, yes, I, the Soldier 76 on low ground, I'm going to run it down mid, run past my tank, and try and hold left click on this Zarya at point blank range, while not even looking at the Zen Ana staring at my head, and the 5 orbs that are about to be impaled into my dome. And you thankfully realize, oh hey, my soldier's about to f***ing explode. And you save him. Good shield. Best, honestly, no joke, best ability usage you have in this entire game. I know that's like pretty basic and straightforward. My soldier's gonna die. I don't want him to die. Shield, he doesn't die. But that is literally the best like ability usage you get all game. So it's all downhill from here. Now, I admit, the one good usage of Ravenous Vortex I struggle to find. I know I definitely saw it, but to be honest, it's not that flashy, and I can't be bothered looking for it, because I don't even remember if it was like at the end or the middle or whatever. But there's like one point where you've nearly finished an entire team fight, like the enemies are running away, everyone's dead, the only person who survives is Ashe with 1 HP, and like, basically, it is on this point, I remember, and basically she's hiding behind these rocks and no one could see her, but you know she's there, and you know she's 1 HP. So you throw up a Ravenous Vortex, and it lands here, about, and because she's already so low, even though the Ravenous Vortex only tickles her, she still dies to it, and nothing else could have killed her there. So even though that Ravenous Vortex only dealt like 5 damage, and even though, like, honestly, that Ashe should have been dead anyway, and alright, and the teamfight was kind of already won, I thought, I'll be generous, I'll count that as a good play, because I mean, hey, it got the kill, Nothing else could have got the kill because he was already behind cover. Ravenous Vortex was the only thing that could do it. Doesn't really matter if it was only like 5 damage. If it was the 5 damage you needed, fair enough. But anyway. So that just leaves one more. But even then, this is why I'm gonna crash out, because it turns out that on one more rewatch, I'm still noticing things I didn't notice the first time, and I'm realizing I think I was being too charitable earlier. You see, I was going to count the shield you're about to see here as a good shield. So, can you guess why I'm not counting that anymore? It's because... well, you'll see. Basically, I thought when I first watched this that you actually tried to do something big brain here, you just kind of fumbled the execution a bit. And I was willing to be like, okay, don't get me wrong, you didn't get this quite right, but that was a good idea. So honestly, you got it close enough to right that I might just say, screw it, whatever, you still got the kill, even if it didn't work as intended, and it was a good idea, so I'll give points for it. I was thinking that you were looking at this Zarya, and you were like, okay, this Zarya's walking into this room, I'm going to make it so that she can't get healed, I'm going to put my shield here, I'm going to block off her heals, and then I can just run on her, and she's kind of like pincered, you know, Brig can come in from this doorway, we can both bully her in here. And she can't get any heals from her supports. Like, usually, if we didn't put the shield here, she could just walk back out to her supports and be fine. But because we put the shield here, her heals are blocked off, she is in danger. I would like that play. However, you might notice that if we go back to your perspective in a second, that is not what happens. The shield goes here, which is close. It's close, but that ain't actually blocking her heals. That's what I thought was going on here at first. But having watched this back a few times, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not convinced. I think I was being too charitable in assuming you were trying to block heals here. I think you just saw Ana Zen and panicked and went, ah, shield! Which, I don't know, I guess you... nah, okay, fair enough. You blocked a nade that was probably gonna hit you. I don't know, though, I don't like it. I don't like it. The other thing as well is that I thought at first that at the very least the shield was good enough. I thought that this Zarya didn't get healed because of the fact that the Ana wasn't good enough at aiming to shoot through the gap after the nade landed. However, I'm not going to lie, I did see the soldier vising at one point, using visor at one point, but it was so long ago I literally forgot he did it. And so I just thought, oh, they ran away because they thought, oh no, we can't heal Zarya, and they didn't even try to shoot through the gap. But no, now I'm watching this back, I'm like, oh no, they ran back because Soldier popped Visor, so... that's not even really, like, you getting this kill. Like, obviously you get the kill, but, like, that's kind of your Soldier setting that up by popping Visor and cutting their entire team off from their tank. And also, to be fair, this is kind of a free kill for you in general. Like, I have no idea why this Zarya walks into this room. Like, it makes no sense from her perspective. She should just walk back and she's fine. But for whatever reason, she walks into this room and just seals her fate. So yeah, I can't. Okay, right, whatever. Those are the shields that are, like, even candidates for good, you know? Those are the plays that are even candidates for being counted as good. I'm saying all this in advance because, as I say, I went counting, just like I did with the Kiriko VOD review recently, where I counted all their Suzus and their Misto Fudas. In this case, I counted every single usage of Shield and every single usage of Vortex. Now, I've put them in 3 categories. I've already said the good usage category, but then there's did nothing and didn't do much. Did nothing is pretty self-explanatory, but I want to add a couple caveats. Obviously, usually, did nothing are abilities that literally dealt 0 damage, 0 healing, mitigated 0, enemy damage, but there are some exceptions. First of all, there were some times where you used abilities that actually did do something, but if anything, I'm being charitable by putting it in did nothing, because they are literally sabotaging you. In that category, I can include 1, giving Zarya free charge. There were a couple times that you threw vortexes onto Zarya and she just bubbles and gets free charge off of it and it deals 0 damage to her, which that's not good. And the other one is that there's a couple times where once you get the perk where your Ravenous Vortex can heal you, you use it basically just to enable yourself to feed. And technically it does something. It's like, well, it healed you for a little bit before you died. But, like, at least from what I'm watching, it looks like the only reason you even thought you had the balls to go make such a stupid feed is because it's like, oh, but I can heal myself with Rapid Vortex, so let's run in with this. Like, if there was a way to have used the healing without feeding, I would probably say, okay, no, I'm being a bit too harsh. I'll put it in didn't do much. But a lot of the times, you're putting these vortexes in places where the only ways you could get use out of the healing is if you intentionally wanted to just feed with it. And obviously, I don't really want to encourage that. I don't want to say, yeah, great job, you intentionally fed and you technically healed 10 HP. That's a decent usage. No, I don't want to include that. So I'm charitably, if anything, putting that in did nothing. Lastly, there are a couple times that you play shields that did nothing, as in they literally block 0 damage, but you could try and make an argument, oh, okay, so yeah, maybe that shield didn't block anything, but it could have blocked something, and the fact that it was there maybe allows my team to walk up even if nothing was shot at it. And I think that's valid. Hell, even if you have a shield that blocks 0 damage, if it allows your entire team to walk forward at a critical moment, I would literally put it in good use. Problem is, every single time you put a shield against nothing but thin air in this game, it's not even a shield that your teammates can really use, and it's not even a shield that theoretically had a decent chance of blocking something. Like, at the very start of the game, you immediately, shield a wall, and the only way that makes sense is if the enemy team is on Widow, and they peek and immediately get a headshot. Other than that, there's literally no reason to put up the shield that early, it's always a misplay. Not to mention no one can even use it except you anyway, because you put it too close to the side of the wall. So yeah, I'm counting that as did nothing. Didn't do much is just a quicker way to refer to a very specific thing. This is when you use abilities basically strictly for ult charge. You use abilities in ways that, quite frankly, you know they aren't going to do anything. You know you're not getting a kill off of them. You know you're not going to make any space off of them. You know you're not going to force anything out using this. You know nothing important is going to happen because you use this ability. But you used it because, hey, it deals some damage, which gives me some ult charge, and I want my ultimate, so sure. These aren't always a terrible idea, but they're only really a good idea if you know for a fact that you literally have nothing better to be doing right now, which is only usually occasionally true in early pre-fights before the real team fight starts. You seem to be in this mode all the time, where you're just throwing out abilities for extremely small trickles of ult charge rather than actually try to use the abilities to do things. That being said, they technically do something, just something very inconsequential, so it didn't do much. So, okay, enough messing you around. What is the final tally? Well, I'll get to playing the footage in the background again as I read these out, so you can see some examples of the kind of thing I mean with your very poor usage of abilities. But either way. For shields, I counted a total of 24 usages of shield. Of those 24, as I already mentioned, 2 of them did anything. And even then, that second one was the one we just covered, where I thought you were blocking heals, but I don't even think you were now in hindsight. So you could even argue that even that one wasn't good. But let's just be generous and say we'll count that as a good one still, because I guess you still block nade. So, 8% in total. Rounded up. I don't know if it's rounded up or down or whatever, but rounded to the nearest whole number. 8% of your shields are doing something. 54% of your shields are doing basically nothing. They're at least blocking some damage and allowing you to poke for free ult charge without you getting shot back for a few seconds, but usually you're only getting 2 or 3% ult charge off of these shields. They aren't making space, they aren't helping your teammates, they aren't getting kills, they aren't punishing an enemy for something they've done, so that even if it forced out cooldowns, even if it's just, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Okay, even if it's just Genji is attacking someone, he gets to low health, and then you put up a shield, not actually to block the Genji, but to block the Genji's healing. And the Genji doesn't die, but the fact that the Genji's healing is blocked means that that he then has to hit deflect when he didn't want to. Even something as small as that, I would say that did something. Because hey, the healing you prevented with that shield forced out deflect. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's something. Even that would have been enough for me to say, it did something. But 54% of your shields are in that didn't do much category. They are not forcing out cooldowns, they are not making space, they are not saving teammates, and they are not getting kills. They are not punishing enemies, they aren't doing anything. And then there's the ones that are literally doing nothing, which is 9 of them, about 38%. That's already pretty poor, but this is the scary part. The shields are the good ones. Vortex, you used 35 times this game. You were spamming it off cooldown. And yet, you got 1 kill with it on a 5 HP Ashe. And that's the one good use. 19 of those vortexes were used for nothing but incremental trickles of ult charge, and never had a chance of forcing anything out from the enemies, making any space, or getting any kills. And 15, or 43% of them about, quite literally did nothing, or did less than nothing. Either charging Zarya when you didn't need to, or only enabling you to feed, and being useless otherwise. Combine it all together, and not counting Nemesis form, you used 59 abilities this game, and 5% of them did anything. More than half of them were used for nothing but a small percentage boost of ult charge, and nearly half of them did literally nothing, or were worse than doing nothing. This is what I mean about I feel like I have to smack your hand whenever you you reach for the vortex button. It's like, verbally I have to tell you, what are you doing? Stop! 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 Because it just seems like the second it's off cooldown, it's like, ooh, vortex, 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 and it's like, no! Wait! Because vortex isn't good unless you punish people with it. Okay, I don't even mind you occasionally throwing out vortex just for ult charge. As I say, when you have situations where the fight hasn't even really started yet, people are pretty grouped up, so you can get a decent amount of ult charge off of it because you're going to get more than one guy with it. It'll only be a bit of incremental damage and it's not going to kill anyone, but hey, you're not going to be in another fight for another 11 seconds anyway, and it's only an 11-second cooldown. If you're in a situation where really, you know for a fact, okay, my teammates are dead, I'm still alive, I want ult charge, but I don't really want to start a fight, fair enough. Throw out the vortex, it's going to be more than 11 seconds before your teammates are back from spawn anyway, go ahead. But if it's like, you're in a fight, you're going to need this at some point, don't just throw it out there for 2% ult charge. Like, you know, wait for the Genji to dash in and not have his dash, and then suck into the ground and he can't get out. Wait for the Moira to not have Fade. I don't think Moira's in the game right now, but there will be a Moira swap at some point from the enemy team. Wait for any opportunity, don't just throw it out. I know I've mostly made my point here, but I just really have to reiterate the fact that out of the 59 abilities I counted, only 3 of them did something. And again, that's being generous. That means that, based off the information I have in this game, you are currently averaging 1 play that actually makes space, saves a teammate, gets a kill, punishes an enemy for doing something, or forces out any cooldowns or ultimates for every 20 abilities you use. It takes you 20 ability usages to get a 1 decent ability on average. If you have to use shield 20 times before you get a single good shield, that means, at best, this is assuming you're literally using shield off cooldown the second it's available, and there is no downtime where it's available and you're not using it, which to be fair is pretty close to where you're already at, but even if we assume that, best case scenario, it is taking you on average 260 seconds of game time to get a single good shield. That is over 4 minutes long. That is half the duration of a game of quick play. So you can see my point, either way. I just want to go really, really hard on this because I think that this is one of your biggest problems. I mean, if you want to tie it back into like the original post, it was obviously about like, why am I dying so often? And to be honest, the answer to that is multifaceted, which is why I didn't just go straight to it. But this is one of the important ones. You walk into almost every fight with no shield and no Ravenous Vortex. And I know that they aren't as powerful as Nemesis form, but that doesn't mean you get to just throw them away. The other major reason is because you're often taking too much poke damage before the fight even really starts, which means you're often starting the fights with no armor, but we'll get more into that later when we get a really good example on screen to show. Okay, so I think this clip will be the best example of just how to show you all the reasons why I feel you're having this issue where you feel like you keep dying and you're not sure why. So just so we have the context where this starts from, this is pretty close to the beginning of round 2. You get a free pick on Ashe again, because she's an idiot again and stands still and lets you get a free kill. And the enemy tank is about to feed, so it's a 3v5 for you, which is good news. Yeah, there's Ryan dead in the kill feed. Okay, so it's just the supports and the Genji. The reason why I'm starting from here is because I want to point something out. Right now, at 10:33 on the timestamps, at this point, you have full HP. And you've just used your Vortex. Now, you completely miss, so it does nothing, but that aside, at this point, you have full HP. Oh, 10:34, actually. And now, you don't. Obviously, I'm not saying, oh, how dare you take 1 damage, but just keep it in mind. 10:34 is the last time you had 500 HP. Or, you know, full HP. So let's watch this out. shield that does basically nothing, considering you don't even use it. Still not back to full health, and we're walking back in. The Ravis Vortex didn't do anything. The shield does something. And we're running in again before we're back up to full HP. And we're dead. So, that is about just over half a minute that you spend with a chunk of your health missing without ever disengaging to get it back. Now, in fairness, for a lot of it, you are at like the high 300s. You still have like 2/3 of your health left. But it is important to note that that last top bit of your health bar isn't normal health. It's armor. And that's a big deal. Like, armor already has always been a little bit important. But definitely in recent years, it's become much more important considering how insanely armor has been buffed in Overwatch. Right now, the amount of damage mitigation that you receive with armor depends on how fast what you're getting hit by is. So something like a shotgun or a machine gun will get a lot more damage mitigation dealt to it than something like a sniper shot. But that aside, if it is a fast-firing weapon, armor halves the damage you're taking. That is stronger than Orisa Fortify for reference. Now, of course, not every single weapon in the game is going to have its damage halved, but a lot of them are with how much armor has been buffed. It used to only be a relatively small chunk. Now I would say it is most weapons in the game have 50, 40, at the very least 30% damage reduction from armor. And it's only really the sniper characters or the beam characters that don't really have to worry about armor so much. Ultimately, this is important because it also means that when you receive healing, if your armor is being, let's say, 25% harder to break through, that also means every point of health that you receive that is healed to armor, rather than your normal health bar, is worth more than 25% more. It's actually worth 33% more because it's 25% less, not 25% more, if you know what I mean. It's like how if you have 50% damage reduction, that's actually double health, effectively. Similarly, 25% damage reduction is more like 33% extra health. And I don't know if you've noticed, but healing is pretty damn strong. So if healing is effectively being amplified in effectiveness for free just because it's being healed to armor health, then man, are you really, really tough to kill so long as you have pocket. But don't get me wrong, obviously in Omnic form, Ramattra really doesn't have a lot of armor to work with, but still, that armor is very important at keeping him, well, sustainable. And to be fair, you can get away with playing without armor a bit more in Ramattra when you have your Nemesis form ready, because that immediately gives you 300 armor on the spot. But for when you don't have it, you gotta be pretty careful. So running in with less health available isn't just the obvious you could die faster, but it's also the healing you receive is going to be less effective if you're closer to the bottom of your health bar, where the health that you're recovering isn't going to be armor, it's just going to be normal health, which isn't worth any extra. Obviously, this is an extreme example, and this obviously isn't the case on Ramattra, but just to give you an idea of what I mean, if you're talking about top-level play, you know, Overwatch Contender Series, people who actually play this game as a damn job, because they're so good at it. Obviously, this isn't the skill level we're playing at, but just for a bit of frame of reference, at those skill levels, Malga players literally play as if they're already dead if they don't have their armor. Even though they only have, 150 armor and 650 health, so they have 500 normal health after their armor's gone. But it's just the case that so much of what makes Malga so unkillable is all the lifesteal he gets, and the main reason that lifesteal is so effective is a combination of the damage reduction from Cardiac Overdrive and the damage reduction from having armor making it so that he regains health faster than you can deal damage to him. But the second the armor's gone, that threshold is broken, and even if you play him well, a lot of the times you can't generate enough health to outpace the damage you're taking if you don't have armor to massively tip that scale in your favour. So yeah, long story short, keeping armor is important. It's less important in situations where you don't need heals or you aren't going to get healed, but when you are going to get healed and that's part of your game plan, armor is insanely important to keep. Beyond that, if we keep playing here, so yeah, we don't even use the shield as I say, you lose a lot of health, and before you've got your armor back, you walk back in. Like, you only need 11 more health and you have your armor back, but we're a little bit too quick, so we don't get that damage mitigation. And again, we're going in a lot without any abilities at the ready. And I kind of even get this. Okay, I will say I don't get throwing the... Like, this is really what I mean about having no cooldown management. It's like, we see a Sigma, and don't get me wrong, you are good versus Sigma. Like, you were getting criticized by some people in the comments saying, like, oh, you attack tank too much. And while I generally agree with that sentiment, I also think it's not actually very helpful. And the main reason why is sometimes you're supposed to attack tank, and sometimes you aren't. And when people tell you, oh, you're hitting tank too much, it kind of assumes that you know when you're hitting tank and it's bad and when you're hitting tank and it's good. And obviously, if you're here asking for help, you probably don't know. So, essentially, generally speaking, it's actually pretty good to be punching tank when the tank is Sigma and you are Ramattra. Ramattra is really good against Sigma typically, so long as he can get in his face and, well, punch him. So, do that. But this is the reason why stop shooting tank on its own isn't actually super great advice. Because generally speaking, in most situations, if you are a Ramattra and the enemy tank is a Sigma, yeah, when you see them doing something like this, you pop Nemesis form and you run at them and you punch. But, context. Let's look at this. Ravenous Vortex, not quite available. It's about to come off cooldown, but it's not here yet. Shield, unavailable. Health, we're down to less than half with no armor, and the DPS passive is on us, so we've got reduced healing. Supports, I don't know. Actually, no, Anna's here. I knew there was at least one support back here. It's Brig who's dead, I think. Yeah. Okay, to be fair, they look like they're in position to heal you. So you might get some healing. We'll see how you do. Thingo. Point being, I would probably at least wait until you are healed before I make a play like this. Especially, I get it though, especially because your Sim's also beaming him. And you pop the Nemesis form, you run in. At the very least, I like maybe playing from, like, even if I think it's a bit too eager going for the Sigma in the first place, I kind of like it if you just, like, play from here and just punch him from here and then walk back a bit and either let the Sim finish them off if, like, you know, you can trust them to do that. Honestly, what would be great is if you could give the Sim a shield here so that she can go deal with this without having to worry about Zen. But, of course, you don't have your shield because you wasted it. So, yeah, it's a tough one, and I'm stalling because like I'm thinking like what do I even focus on here? Because again, there's a lot of things I could bring up. Another thing is like the way you move around the payload here. You gotta remember that there is an Anna behind you trying to heal you, and you gotta remember this is gold 5, so they are not exactly going to be confident on their aim. So the easier you make the shots, the more likely you're going to be healed. And so far, right now, fine. I can tell you without even looking, Anna's probably going to have a fine time healing you. And here, it's like, okay, it might be a little tough, but she can still do it. And it's like, starting to get into the area where she probably can't do it. And then it's like, okay, you're behind the payload. Like, your Anna ain't gonna help you. You're like, where even is she? Is that? Oh, this is where she dies. Right. I knew she died at some point. Christ. Okay, that's very funny. That is very funny. But yeah, she's dead. I was thinking, okay, I remembered in this team fight that she got jumped, but I was like, when does it happen? Because I thought it had already happened, like, when I first looked back at her. I was like, oh no, she's there. But no, it's happened now. Okay, right. So yeah. Obviously, your Anna is dead, but let's presume she wasn't dead. Obviously, like, how is she going to heal you when you're standing behind the payload? You know? So, I mean, if you don't need healing for that play, great, but clearly you do, because your health is, like, gone. So, yeah. This is actually kind of a perfect microcosm for everything, almost, because, like, as well as that, if we watch this back, let's actually see this from the enemy Genji's perspective, because, actually, if I remember right, it was kind of a team effort between Ashe and Genji. So yeah, he's going uncontested up here. No one really cares to deal with him. So he gets a couple dinks on Anna. Anna takes a shot from Ashe. And it's not actually Genji that kills her. Oh, he still gets the dash reset. But yeah, it's not even Genji that kills her. I will give you some credit here. Generally, I think this Anna actually played very well to say this is gold 5. But this was a little stupid. So she lands the sleeve. That's actually a good sleeve. Yeah, okay, so she's forced to walk up to heal you. Okay, it's all coming back now. Sorry, there's so many team fights packed into this game that I like swear I remember details and I worry I'm mixing up team fights. And then I see it and I'm like, no, I'm not mixing it up. Okay, right. So, your Anna, because of the fact that you're running at this awkward angle, is forced to walk up to be able to get line of sight to heal you clearly. And because she has to walk up, but no one's dealt with Ashe yet because he's all the way in the back, Ashe now gets a clear shot onto her. Not to mention there's still a Moira orb on her. Not to mention that Genji's still pressuring her from here. So, yeah, this is a pretty rough spot for Ana. Now, the bit where I'm not going to give her any credit is... Bro, why does everyone in this lobby just walk into Dynamite? Like, you're not off scot-free too, by the way. You, like, walked into Dynamite, like, 7 times this game. But, like, here Ana does it. She walks right into the Dynamite and she dies. So, yeah, I guess they just can't hear the ticking. I don't know. I feel like the ticking of Dynamite is pretty loud. I feel like this should not be an issue, but for whatever reason, everyone just walks into it in this game, I guess. Bingo. But, yeah, it just seems like, you know... You see the Sigma, and everything else goes out. You know, it's like, the Sigma's the only thing that exists in your head. The Ashe doesn't exist, and so you don't know that, like, the Ashe is killing your Ana. The Genji doesn't exist, so you don't know the Genji's killing your Ana. I don't know, maybe you're aware of the Zen at least. No, I can't even really give you that, because if you're aware of the Zen, you would know not to walk this deep, wouldn't you? Like, if you're aware of the Zen, you would know, like, oh, I'm just gonna get discorded and orbed, and that. Yeah. Yeah, it's a rough one. While we're on the topic of dying, I have to cover okay, bit of context. I've been skipping around, so you haven't been able to see this game very clearly, I guess. But for those of you watching, basically, they nearly full hold the enemy team at this first point, but then they lose this team fight in overtime. Now, there's things I could point out, but generally, I would be being a little strict. Like, there's ways you could have maybe not fumbled this, but this was a tough fight. And I'm not really mad that you lost this fight. Like, I get it. That was really chaotic. There's a lot of things to react to. Didn't handle it the best. There was some wasted shields. There was some questionable positioning. But, honestly, it could have gone a lot worse as well. And you've got 2/3 of the map left. Like, it should be fine. Should be. You see, here's the problem. I've got to pause here already and wind this back. What if I told you that the enemy team gets to full cap the rest of the entire map before you really do anything ever again, like aside from poke for ult charge? That would sound ridiculous, incomprehensible. How could the enemy team get like the next 2/3 of the map within the space of like less than 2 minutes? And the answer is, I don't know what happens here, but, like, okay, again, I've said the position hasn't been perfect so far, but I did mention I think it's pretty standard for gold tank. This is different. This is... I mean, already, I mentioned that I initially left a comment under this, a written comment, before I made this video. And there were some things I wanted to point out, and this I just had to know. I had to ask what was going through this guy's head. What they were thinking with these two plays. This is the first one. Because, essentially, we just have 2 giga feeds in a row that give them 2/3 of the map within the space of only a couple minutes. And I genuinely had a tough time reading... Like, obviously, it's a misplay. Obviously, it wasn't supposed to go the way it went. But I genuinely had a tough time even reading what the plan was. Like, obviously, the plan went wrong, but what even was the plan in the first place? And to be honest, I still didn't really get that much of an answer. I guess I got a bit more of an illumination on the second one, but let's start with the first one. Apparently, essentially, as you saw, when they put up the shield, they were thinking, I'm putting this up for the Ramattra. Now, they're a bit late to react. By the time they put it down, Ramattra actually doesn't need the shield. She's already got natural cover, and if you wanted to give her shield to save her, you really needed to put it down a lot earlier. I know it's awkward because it's angle, but, like, it is before, like... I know that right now you don't have LOS, but I believe if I watched that back, you had a window where you could have placed it if you were quick enough on your reactions. To be fair, maybe this is a bit strict, but, like, obviously, like, your reactions need to get, like, faster the longer you play. Let's see. I feel like you have a window there. I feel like you could do it. Yeah, okay, to be fair, it's pretty strict, because at first she just takes poke damage. But yeah, there was like a window where you could have tried to shield it. Even if you like fumbled it, and you put the shield like on the stairs here, rather than where she is, obviously that wouldn't be great, but I wouldn't even be that mad at you, because like, it's the right spirit, and still, like, Sim still has a shield, it's just not on the corner, you know? But this is definitely very late, you know? like, Sim is just, again, like, by the time the shield is up, Sim is not here, man. She is gone. She is not using the shield. So, apparently you thought you were using the shield for her, but it just seems to be a delayed reaction. This is really only used for you. And so you're here now, and so it's like, okay, I'm here, I guess I may as well poke for ult charge. And you get a couple percents of ult charge. Do some damage to Sig Shield. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's fine. This is what baffled me. Now, apparently this is an accident, but it just looks so intentional. So you back up from the Zen shots, but instead of just backing up to the wall, you walk off the high ground, and apparently you didn't mean to do that, so that explains a bit, I guess. Even still, it's a little confusing. Now, you've taken the healing perk. So, oh yeah, I didn't even talk about his perks. Very quickly, the perks he's taken is obviously the shotgun blast on his primary fire, rather than the larger and longer shield, and the healing AoE on the Ravenous Vortex. So, I don't mind the healing AoE on the Ravenous Vortex. I will say, I am a bit wary of it, not even because I think it's a bad pick, but just because it's the free value pick, so to speak. As in, you have to use the damage perk well, where you can detonate the Ravenous Vortex for extra damage and a more powerful slow at a specific point in time. That one is a perk where how good it is depends on how well you use it, whereas this perk is like, for the most part, it's just free value. You just throw it and you get health, and there's not really much skill expression to it. So, I'm only pointing that out not to say that means it's always worse. There are situations where it is better when it's actually the right pick. But I'm a little skeptical of whether you really would have wanted that here. I do think that the detonated Vortex would have been really nice against the Reaper and the Moira. And definitely the Genji back when the Genji was here, but in fairness, there's no Genji anymore. And I do think to myself, like, I'm worried that you're just taking the Ravenous Vortex heal one, so that, because, like, you're not using your Vortexes, if you know what I mean. Like, it's not so much that the Ravenous Vortex heal perk is a bad perk, and more so that if you were literally throwing every Vortex away, the only way to make your Vortexes do anything would be to make them heal you. And it's like, then it's just a crutch, you know? It's kind of like trying to put a band-aid on a bad habit that's giving you, like, a massive wound. So, like, I don't think it's the solution if that's why you're picking it. But either way, I don't mind it so much just the concept of taking the healing perk. The other one is, for the minor perk, I will say I've got a bit of a stronger disagreement on the shotgun blast on your primary fire, because, like, it makes sense if you're in frontline battles. Like, I will say, I think more often than not, in random games as Ramattra, I would take that. If I have no information and I just have to guess, should I take the perk or not on Ramattra, I think more times than not it's the right pick. But in this situation, I honestly think the shield perk is better. As I say, it makes the shield last 4 seconds instead of 3 seconds, and it makes it bigger. Which I know isn't the most flashy thing, but the thing is, you got to look at this comp and you got to be like, what is the thing that's killing me? What's the thing that's screwing my team? What's making this hard? And if the answer is, there's some big scary guy I got to do a lot of damage to up close, then the shotgun blast one is great. And a lot of times that is the answer. But right now, you're the big scary guy that's giving them a nightmare up close. And yet, you're still struggling. And the reason for that is because they got a lot of long-range pressure on you. Long-range pressure you can only deal with shield, but your shield only lasts 3 seconds. So even just getting an extra second of shield from 3 to 4 could be a pretty big deal. I would definitely take the shield perk here, personally. Anyway, sorry, tangent on perks. But as I say, apparently this is a mistake that you fall off here. Again, it looks a little weird. I thought you did this on purpose when I first watched this. I wasn't sure what the plan was, but... because it's not quick, you know, there's time. Anyway, but like... and then it seems like, I'm guessing as a panic reaction, you're like, oh, I didn't mean to drop here. I will drop my Vortex on the ground so I can be self-healed so I don't die. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that this is not intentional, this was not the plan, and now you're here. But you gotta look at this situation like, okay, right, I have my DPS here, my Ana's here, my Kiri's about to be here, and I'm on a corner. All I gotta do is walk back and play this corner. And you're fine. Like, you take like a little bit of damage on the way out, okay, whatever. That's it. That's simple. That's simple. Just play this corner. Just play this corner and wait for your team to get back. And you're fine. You're completely fine. But for some reason... let's take a look. So actually, to be fair, this is the thing that I almost forgot this. This baffles me even more. Is like, you actually do that at first. You go to the corner and you do the right thing. And then... you just... I don't know what the Nemesis form is like. You just pop Nemesis form and you run in. And like, just so you understand right now, you are 1 versus 5. Like, the only person who's even remotely in this fight other than you is Ramattra, and Symmetra's range is too short. I don't even know what she's trying to be. I'm not gonna lie, I don't... Okay, actually, very quickly, because KFC for everyone over here has been very questionable, we'll take the heat off of you and look at what they're doing, because, like, I actually don't know why they're beaming a wall. Let's see, what's going on here? Wait, is that what I think it is? Did they think the Sigma Rock was an enemy? Oh, that's funny. Okay, so anyway, you're dead. Yeah, that was, yeah. I don't understand, because you do the right thing at first. Like, playing the corner is right here, and then you just... I don't know what you're thinking popping Nemesis form here in a 1v5. Again, when you're not even fully healed yet, you've got no shield and you've got no Ravenous Vortex. And, like, again, your Kyria wasn't even back out of spawn yet, and she was just about to be. If you just wait, like, 5 seconds, the entire team is there, and you can have an even 5 versus 5 fight. I don't know why you take the 1v5 when there's literally no reason to. Like, it's just... It's just... Eesh. So, yeah, I want to drill on that, because then you lose an entire third of the map to that. And you held the first point so well, but it just doesn't matter. You lose second point to one fight, because that one, like, overextension, like, you got punished for it so bad. And then... Actually, how does this even pick up? Do we even get to touch point? Yeah, no, wait, we don't get to touch point. I remember now. So, your Symmetra is now on Echo, because they can't go 2 seconds without swapping, I guess. And... Okay, I was debating whether to bring this up. Okay, I'm glad that you don't just run onto the point here to try and touch, like, 1v5 again, so at least you didn't do it again. But I will say, you look like a little bit of a lost kid right now, just wandering around the map. Like, the second that that touching the payload isn't the right play, you're like, wait, where do I go? Oh, this way? Oh, that way? Oh, whoa, hey, where are we? Whoa. And it's not like... This isn't the biggest thing in the world, but it's one of those things where, again, a small mistake can have lasting consequences. I think it's pretty simple. Where's the fight going to be when everyone gets grouped back up? Well, considering they've got to wait for these doors to open, by the time your entire team's grouped back up, the next team fight is going to be here, right? I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, where else is it going to be? So you just play this corner. I wouldn't really get the whole, like, standing around like, ooh, I don't know. The best I can think is you're thinking, oh no, is Echo going to feed and try and 1v5? I better bodyguard them. And I'd understand that if you were like Zarya and you can give her a bubble. But, like, let's be real. If it turns out that this Echo is dumb enough to try and 1v5 here, if she walks through this doorway and runs out here, what are you on Ramattra going to do from that distance? Like, the best you could do is if you were godlike on your reactions and placement, you might be able to, if this Echo peeked here and started shooting and was about to get head blown off, you might just be able to perfectly sneak a shield here if you are literally godlike, and you might save her life. But that's such a stretch, and again, you're just not really on a character to be able to do that. The only way you could really make it work is if you were in there with her, but you don't want to do that either. So, the best thing you can do is just play this corner. You don't have to turn the corner. I wouldn't turn the corner. I wouldn't actually fight the enemies until your team's here, but just be at the corner. Be ready. And I know that seems so small, but you can see why I'm telling you to be at the corner and not just wander around all confused, because then you realise, oh, hang on a minute, the enemies are going to be here. And oops, would you look at that? Now there's an Ashe looking at you, and there's a massive stretch of open land here with no cover for you to work with, where you easily could have been at the corner by now if you walked to it, but because we kind of wandered around and we're like, oh, I'm not sure where we're going to be, you gave them too much time to set up, and now they've got this nasty angle of their own, and there's too much distance here for you to cover, so you can't really do anything about it. Even from here, I'm not saying it would be easy, but there was a chance that from here you might be able to pop Nemesis form, run at her. She probably doesn't die, in fairness, but you could at least force her out of this angle so that she can't see this entire stretch of, like, the map. It's kind of needless giving them that space for no reason. And see, and it forced your shield. You wouldn't need shield if you were playing on the corner, and then shield's gone again. So So yeah, anyway. Now, you are playing on the corner now. And this is fine right now, because everyone is here at the moment. This is a little bit less fun. Honestly, ooh, you know, I feel bad for giving you credit for, like, the Nemesis form earlier, because, like... I'm not sure, because, like... I get it, you're taking damage. This is what I mean, though, about, like... Don't just hit Nemesis form when you're taking damage. You actually hit full HP because you were getting healed so fast before you even hit Nemesis form. So yes, you were low for a second there. Like if I... That was too far. God damn it. If I wind that back, let's look at the health bar. Actually, let's put it in slow-mo because I'm definitely gonna... Boom. You were like half HP. And then you pop Nemesis... Oh, never mind, you were already full. And then, despite the fact you're full HP right now and you're double-pocketed, you hold block instead of punching. And this is bad on two fronts. It's bad for one, for the obvious reason that, like, you don't need to be blocking, you could be punching, you have more than enough health, you don't need to be playing this scared. But also because, if you are just going to hold block, why even turn the corner? Like, if you're not attacking them, why do you need to see around the corner? And if you pick the corner, they could attack you. Why just give them that free damage? It doesn't do anything for you. So you look around the corner, and then you realize... Wait, I don't want to be around the corner. You're still holding block again at full HP, and it's just... I just run on the Ashe right here. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, man, I'm actually really glad I put this in slow motion, because it really helps, like, painstakingly illustrate the point. I was going to make this point later, but I was thinking, how hard do I want to go on this? But, like, it really makes it clear here. I was, like, my instincts were telling me, like, you're letting that Ashe get away with too much. But, like... Watching this back, I forgot how bad it is. Yeah, I think the second that Ashe repeats that angle... Okay, so, like, obviously she's not there yet. I can see her because, like, it's replay viewer, but you can't see her yet. That's fair enough. But you see... Look over here. There's bullets being fired. Maybe you don't notice that. Fair enough, you can't see her now. You can see her. Just run at her. Just run at her. Run at her. Force her back into that little alley. I wouldn't say it if you didn't have full HP, but you have full HP. They don't have Anna anymore, so you can't get slept. You can't get anti. They can't punish you for this. Just run in. Run in, and then this. So to play that at full speed again, just to make it clear. Yeah, so you might be thinking, okay, why am I telling you about how bad this Ashe is? Why am I constantly screaming, run at the Ashe? I mean, isn't the Moira a closer target? Don't you shoot the supports? Or what about the Zen? Isn't the Zen scarier to me? The Zen is scarier to you, but you know what's scarier to your supports? The Ashe. Do you know what's scarier to your Echo? The Ashe. Do you know what's scarier to your Mei? Not the Ashe, but the Reaper that's in the backline also. Which I don't think you're aware of. It's a bit harder to tell when someone pings in the replay viewer because you don't hear the sound effect. Obviously, there's a loud wham or whatever it was. No, sorry, that's the elimination sound. What am I trying to think of? I can't imitate it. But yeah, you know the ping sound either way. Obviously, you don't hear the ping sound in the replay viewer, so it's a bit harder for me to catch it. But when you hear the ping sound, okay. Your enemies did. Not your enemies. Your teammates did ping the Reaper. So I'm not saying you should be able to do something about this, because again, the Reaper's on high ground, you can't even see him. Like, you know he's here, but you can't see him. I'm not saying, like, wow, you're so dumb for not killing this Reaper, because, like, again, like, nah, there's no way you're doing that. But again, it's like, okay, if the Reaper's here, maybe I shouldn't still be here at this point. Or at the very least, if I am gonna be here, I gotta kill that Ashe. Like, I think you need to understand how bad it is that the Ashe is here. Like, because you want to play from here. And I'm not even saying you playing the corner is stupid. Like, I literally said, like, this is where I would play if I could set it up. But the thing is, because you let the... This is why I really want to focus it in. Because you were lost earlier, you just let Ashe have this spot. And it seemed like such a small thing, but look how big it is now. Because of the fact that Ashe got that spot completely uncontested, and you were not in a position to do anything about it, now your supports are hiding from the Ashe, which means they don't have LOS to heal you. It also means that the Ashe has a free shot at the Echo, so the Echo's about to die. The Reaper's TPing on your Mei, so that takes the Mei out of the equation. And once the Echo and Mei are out of the equation, and your supports are both hiding behind this box, where does that leave you? Well, we're about to see. I don't even know why you try and go behind the payload for a second here, but I just want you to see right now. This is where your supports are, and both your DPS are dead. Echo's dead to the Ashe, and Mei is dead to the Reaper. And this is where you are. Like, already, like, your chances of living this are pretty bad, even if you're on the corner, but you could still maybe get a Suzu and get out. The fact that you go around the corner basically just seals your fate. Like, you're not getting out of this now. I don't know why you're even going this direction, because there's no enemies here. My best guess is that you were looking to ult, but then, for whatever reason, I guess you must have thought all the enemies were back here, and they aren't. And then you walk here and you're like, oh wait, this isn't a good spot to ult. And then you're like, oh wait, I'm dead. But, yeah, this is... oof. This is rough. This is very bad. So yeah, I want to highlight this entire moment because I feel like this is one of the best moments to like explain why your positioning is flawed when it is. Because like, okay, I kept like stressing earlier the importance of not just thinking of things that are threats to you, and I kind of already implied earlier, the issue here is that because Ashe isn't that much of a threat to you, you've decided that that means there's no point in trying to do anything about her, while ignoring the fact that you do need your DPS right here, you do need your supports right here, and they are scared of the Ashe, and because you haven't done anything to deal with them, they just get to pick them off. Again, obviously the Reaper was also part of that, but I'm cutting you some slack on the Reaper because you can't really do much about that on Ramattra. But it's just... even before this really kicks off, let's just see, what's a good point to pause this? Actually, you know what, screw it. No, actually. Yeah, okay. Basically, like, right here. When you... okay, this position. Okay. Right now, it's like, where do you want your supports to even be? You know? Like, again, because you haven't dealt with this Ashe, this entire hallway is like a no-go. So it's like, okay, if you're playing support right now, what do you do? Now, in fairness, if they were a little better, they probably wouldn't be playing on low ground. They would probably be playing up here, and they could use the, like, the truck as cover. You know, they could use this pole or whatever, and they could still have LOSTU. Maybe they'd be up where the Mei is, and they could, like, triple team the Reaper. But... again, it's Gold 5. I'm not expecting the world from everyone on your team, naturally. And generally, it's a tough one. Like, you're putting your supports in a very, very tough position to try and help you out here. Not to mention that when you are attacking people who are around this corner, which it seems like that's what you wanted to do, you got to understand that no one can help you there. Like, not just that you can't get healed, but your DPS can't even really follow up. The best that could happen is maybe Mei could land a snipe from here if she wasn't preoccupied with the Reaper. That doesn't mean you should never try and attack round a corner, though generally it's usually a bad idea, but it's more that if you are going to attack around a corner, you should know that, A, you're basically just getting ult charged for it, you're almost certainly not going to get a kill. At the very most, you might be able to drive people away from an area, which might be valuable depending on the context, but you're almost certainly not getting a kill. And in fairness, here's a great example of that. Like I just said earlier, if you ran onto Ashe and punched them, I don't even think you get the kill on Ashe, I just still think it's important, because while Ashe probably does coach gun you away and hide down here, that at least means she's not there anymore. Which, yeah, maybe you didn't get the kill, but again, that creates space. So, like, there's some situations where you can go a little deep or go around a corner to go for a, like, you know, for an attack, but you just got to know that if you're doing that, it should be either for ult charge, or it should be because you know you're going to get the kill and you don't need any help, like it's a 1 HP character already and they got no cooldowns and so it's an easy win, or it has to be that you know you're doing this purely for ult charge and you think that's worth it. It shouldn't be, I actually expect I'm going to turn the corner and start punching people and my team will just be here and they will follow up and we will get kills and we'll win the fight. Nah, if you're going that deep and if you're going around corners, just, nah, it's not happening. So I'm just going to play these two back one more time. This time I won't really pause and yap too much. I just want to give you a chance to look these back over after everything I told you and kind of think through, because I don't know, I can't read your mind, but just think through maybe what you were thinking back then that made you want to make these plays, and maybe with what you've learned now, like what you might do differently in these situations instead. Because there's the first one, and then the second one. Do. And I just really want to just focus in on these because, again, you might be better than this 90% of the time. You might not make these mistakes 90% of the time. But these are so bad that, again, I know I keep saying it, but you lost 2/3 of the map to this. It's like less than 2 minutes have passed, and yet you lose 2/3 of the map. For most of this game, for the majority of this game, you weren't doing this. These were the only 2 times I would say you fared anywhere near this bad. But those 2 times were so bad that it cost you almost the entire game. It's honestly kind of a miracle you kind of came back. In this next segment, I want to do something a little different. I want to show you your supports gameplay. You see, part of the reason why I'm going to be a little bit critical here is because, whether you meant it or not, there's kind of implication when you say, like, I feel like I was one of the best players in the lobby, that, like, you didn't feel like your teammates were carrying their weight. And in fairness, you might have a point with KFC for everyone over here. As I say, I don't think they did great. I understand your frustration if it was directed at them. I kind of get it. They definitely weren't hitting very many shots. The mechanics were shaky. But they had some creative flanks and plays that actually paid off big time, and they hit some really important walls. So I wouldn't really complain about the May all too much. The supports in particular, though, like, I know we're grading on a curve here, but this is Gold 5. Like, this is basically silver. And to say that this is basically silver, these supports are actually pretty damn good. And I feel like, I don't know, I'm having to make a logical leap here, but I feel like you might not realize just how much your supports were doing for you in this game. And I'm not just doing this to like, oh, for shame, you didn't know your supports were carrying you or whatever. I'm going to show you just how bad you are compared to the supports. But genuinely, I feel like you need to see this because it might help you understand how you can play with them better, because they were doing a lot to enable you. I mean, straight away, let's just start with an obvious one. You know how earlier I said that I think your ult usage is a little poor. But it's a little bit hard to tell because you get some really big ults, but it's mostly just because of how your teammates are playing. This is a perfect example, because this ult is huge, but it's not really huge because of you, it's huge because of your Ana and your Mei. If you watch this back, first of all, this nade throw, beautiful. 2 purpled, blind by the way, just like inferring from the sounds and the positioning that enemies are likely to take. Throws a blind nade, manages to get 2, immediately nanos you to save your life, by the way, because you were like on the verge of dying because you were being a little bit too eager and trying to restart the fight before your teammates were back. And then because you get both nano plus a big double anti and then Mei hits the wall, you just get to pop Annihilation and just hold W. And even the Transcendence can't save them. And by the way, the Transcendence probably would have saved them if it weren't for the anti. And you even get slept, but it doesn't matter. But, like, can you see how much of that is actually not really you? It's your teammates, you know? Again, it's not to, like, just put you down all that much, but it's like, I feel like it might be important for you to get an appreciation for what your teammates are doing for you here. Because, like, right here, frankly, you deserve to die here. You overextended, you were way too eager, you didn't wait for people to come back. And then, boom, you get the nano. And, like, already, that's a death prevented that, like, where you basically deserved to die and got bailed out. And then boom the wall, and then boom the anti. And all you really have to do is just hold block until your teammates bail you out, and then hit the ult button and hold W. So yeah, anyway. So that's one pretty good example. Let's see if we can get another one up. So honestly, this might seem quite small, and I guess it kind of is, but I feel like it's very important. Right here, in fairness, I'm not about to say this is perfect. Yana's getting a little bit, like, excited with her cooldowns. I wouldn't throw a nade that only catches someone that's behind cover that can't be killed anyway, and then immediately throw out a sleep dart that's never going to hit. That's obviously not perfect, but we're not asking for perfection. It's gold 5. Bulb gets thrown out, and oh no, we just wasted sleep darts, so we can't deal with that. That does suck. But here's the thing. This Ana immediately dives into this area of the map, and that might not seem like much, but really, that is a very good play. Because Ana could have easily just, like, sat here, but naturally, she would have been a sitting duck from this angle. Ana could have tried to run to a brig, but she would probably die while trying to, you know, run across. Ana could have just hit around here and probably would have lived, but she would have had to bail on all of you. And by coming into here, she not only gets to play by health pack, but she gets to rotate over to this angle where her Brig can see her and she can see Brig. By the way, Brig is also playing smart by preempting this Bob, by preemptively positioning in this tunnel. I don't think she knows specifically Bob was coming. I'm guessing at Gold 5 this Brig probably didn't know specifically that was about to happen. But I do believe the way this Brig was playing, it looked like her like sort of danger sensors were going off, and it's like, okay, I don't think I should be down main right now. I feel like I should probably take a bit more of a secure position, like in preparation for something bad. Oh, there's the Bob. So yeah, Anna's rotating around here, and it's to keep you up as well, because you are making yourself pretty hard to heal right now, but with this rotation, Anna can actually keep you up, despite it all. So, let's go back to Anna's perspective, and I don't think, to be fair, this is all that important. It's basically just, you know, normal, just healing and some shots. Although there is a Moira, which I think you miss, and, oh yeah, the Reaper you definitely miss, I remember that. I think you miss the Moira, but it's alright because, Thingy, Anna's at least gone low, and then you get him on the way out, yeah. And don't get me wrong, are this Anna's mechanics on point? Not quite, but they're good enough, especially for Gold 5. I'm pleased with what I'm seeing here. Similarly, let's take a look at Brig right here, because not only does she preemptively take cover here, knowing that something bad's about to happen, but also, now don't get me wrong, she's not successful, but she does try to save Sim's life as she makes the mistake of trying to kill Bob. That's another thing. Small thing, you panic when this Bob goes off, it looks like, which is kind of understandable. This is a messy team fight, but I would like to nitpick this a little bit. So you walk into the fight, and it's like, okay, let me throw out my Ravenous Vortex that does nothing, as I always do. Throw out the Bob, and... okay, I will cut you some slack if you're new to Overwatch 2 specifically, and you didn't know that shield doesn't physically block Bob. Otherwise, what the hell is this? So yeah, that's a wasted shield too. So as I say, we've gone into this fight, we haven't even really started yet, and once again, you might notice, you have no armor, you have no shield, and you have no Ravenous Vortex already, and we haven't done anything yet. Which is not great. But the real thing I want to pick at here is, you just like ignore the Bob. Like, it's just not even there. And it's like there's still a Bob back there. There's still a Bob. So, okay, I get it. It's not like you can instantly disable the Bob. You don't have an ability that does that. The best thing you could have done is shield it off, and you just wasted shield, so you can't do it. I get it. But I would say, since you put this shield up anyway, so if you turn your back right now and stay behind the shield, you can't get shot anyway, you should probably take a second to look, hey, how is my teammates reacting to this Bob? The second Bob goes down, it's not necessarily that you always have to deal with Bob, but you have to look and see what Bob is doing and what people are doing to Bob to be like, okay, do we do something here, or are we just ignoring that? You know? Because obviously, basically it's because if you're going to deal with a Bob, everyone needs to deal with it. And if you're going to ignore a Bob, everyone needs to ignore it. You can't have one person trying to kill Bob and everyone else just ignoring it. And this is a perfect example of why. Because while I have been roasting the Symmetra most of the game, because to be fair, they are pretty bad, I don't blame them that much here. They see the Bob, and they're like, I'm Symmetra, I have level 3 beam, I can kill that real quick. If anyone shoots Bob, literally anyone, Bob dies, and we shut down this ultimate in like 3 seconds. And Ramattra just put up a shield for us. So this is perfect. Come on, guys, let's kill Bob. But because no one looked back, because no one realized, oh wait, maybe we should help Symmetra, except Brig, but Brig can't really do much except give her a heal pack, which isn't enough. Look what happens. And look how close Bob is to dying. If you just shot Bob, he dies. And it would have been within the space of like 2 seconds. And by the time your shield's down, you'd be able to turn back around and deal with the front line. And that would really, really help you get control of the situation again. And again, obviously you couldn't have known that your Symmetra was going to run the Bob and hold beam. But you could have known if you just turn around. Like again, it is bad to turn your back to enemies in a lot of situations, but you did just put up a shield up in front of you. So you had a moment where you could have turned your back and be fine. So yeah, just when Bob goes down, always take a second to be like, is my team doing something about this Bob, or are we ignoring it? And go along with what everyone's doing. Don't like just pick one and ignore everyone else, because that'll be what happens. Is someone will think, oh, we're going to deal with Bob, right? And then everyone else will ignore it, and whoever thought, I'm going to go deal with Bob, is going to die for it, even if it might have been the right play. I honestly got to say, I think this was actually the right play from Symmetra, assuming people actually do join her. But yeah, unfortunately, she got ditched. So, yeah, that's not ideal. I'd also like to go back to this team fight for a second as well, because there's something else I kinda maybe brushed on, but I want to be more specific about. So I mentioned earlier that I think most of the time in this game your position is pretty standard for a gold tank, as in not good, but like not bad, I guess. I should be more specific about what it is I'm identifying. You spend a lot of this game standing down the middle of main, holding block or holding up shield. Now don't get me wrong, I understand why you do this. Unfortunately, down here in the metal ranks, a lot of people have this idea in their head that if their tank isn't here, it must be because they're an idiot and they don't know how to play tank. But you might notice that most of these players aren't tank players, and are also in gold for a reason. I know it sucks, but sometimes you can't be standing down main as a tank when it's a bad idea, even if your teammates are going to be like, "What the hell? Why aren't you standing down main? Tank diff! Tank diff!" I know it sucks, but there are just some points at this game where you're going to run into people who have no idea how to play your character but think they do, and they'll start trying to tell you how to play their character, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So I'm going to have some sympathy for you in this, because I do think, to some extent, while obviously a little bit of this is on you, because I would say, like, you know, you should ignore it, but I don't know for sure, but I bet you've been told before by supports, like, "Where are you going? Why the hell are you over there? Play from here, play from here." And they'll just be telling you to stand down main. And don't get me wrong, like, if you're a rush tank like Ramattra, usually this is about where you want to be. But there are situations where that isn't true. Now, let me help you figure out when you don't want to be just standing down main for the sake of it. Because right now, you don't want to be standing down main for the sake of it. So let me ask you something. What do you think you're achieving right here? By standing here, what do you think you are doing? Well, I suppose you're stopping payload. But you might notice there's a more advantageous spot you could hold if you wanted to. You could hold from this corner, like the enemy team did, and not go round the corner and try and hold from here. And that would be more advantageous, but it would give them a little bit more payload length. Okay, sure, but like, how much payload length are they going to get if you take a team fight here and you die because this is a bad space to take a team fight? Well, probably we'll get about from all the way from there to probably about here. So let's be real. If you lose a single team fight from here, unless you get back here quick, then maybe you'll get an overtime touch right at the end. They are probably going to get the payload to the end of first point. So, the only difference that really gets made by you choosing to let the payload go up like 2 meters is there's a slightly lowered chance of you getting that touch. Ultimately, it's not a big deal. So basically, when it's this little space, you don't really care about just stopping cart. Obviously, you want to stop cart when it's just rolling for free. And you want to stop cart when you're going to lose a lot of distance for no reason. But if you're just going to lose like an inch of distance, there's some things you would rather sacrifice. And I would say a big one of those is you want the place your team fights happen to be a place your team actually wants to play from. And here's the thing. Who wants to play from here? Like, really, who wants to play from here? Like, you're playing from here, but you don't even want to play from here. Let's be real, you don't want to play from here. You're getting discorded, you're getting poked at, you can't fight back because the sight lines are too long, you don't have cover, you don't have a flank, you don't like being here. But you're probably here right now because you're thinking, I'm the tank, and I'm supposed to be at the front and in the middle, and I'm supposed to be big up front, and I'm supposed to be taking space, I'm supposed to be scary, I'm supposed to be blocking off all the pressure my team's taking. And again, a lot of that is kind of generally true, but it all depends on context. And right here, you're taking space, but you might notice no one actually wants to use the space you're taking. Like, if you look at this is such a terrible place to take a fight that no one wants to use it. And yet you're still losing HP and losing cooldowns and forcing help from your supports to not achieve anything. And again, I'm not even going to blame you too hard for this, because again, unfortunately, this is just kind of the culture at the lower ranks, where a lot of people just think, I don't know, well, you're holding space, so you must be doing something right. But you can clearly see this is not really actually a valuable place to hold. This is why you might have seen that in higher ranks, basically everyone actually gives up the entire first corner at this point. Like, if you have like a sniper, they might go to poke from here for a bit. But generally speaking, most people just go to the roof of Big Earls over here, or they play from the, like, billboard over here, and they don't even bother. They literally give the cart, this entire first stretch of the cart, for free, because this entire area is such a terrible place to take a fight as defenders, that it's just worth it to give them that much cart distance just to take a fight in a place that you're actually going to win. So, yeah. Because obviously, if you take this fight too early, and if they get to push cart, they get to push it past this area, when this is probably the most defensible area of the map. You never get to have a team fight in the one part of the map you want to be in as much as possible, which is terrible for you. So, yeah, you do not want to be here. This would be valuable if anyone on your team wants to be here. If Ramattra wants to be here, if Anna wants to be here, if Brig wants to be here, if May wants to be here, even if you didn't want to be here, this would be fine. If it's like, I don't want to be here, but I have to do this for my teammates, fair enough. But look, your teammates don't want to be there either. No one on the team wants to be in this position, and yet you're fighting to keep it. And the big reasons for that is, when it comes to the positions you actually want to take, they typically have one of three qualities. Either A, they are a good angle, so funnily enough, what the enemies have on you. From over here, the enemies have a great angle on you. The only thing that's in the way is the payload, but even then, they can kind of shoot around it, and you can't really shoot them back. They've got cover right there. You don't really have cover aside from the payload, which isn't super reliable. So yeah, you are in a position where you're feeling the effects of the enemies having a good angle on you, and you could reverse this dynamic by giving your allies a good angle on them. So yeah, getting a good angle is one of them, just like a long sight line to fire down where you've got cover available to you readily. Another one would be playing a corner, just because naturally if you play a corner, you've got some cover to work with, and if they start encroaching around the corner, you can start pushing them back, and it's much more clear cut how you're going to play if you're playing around a corner, because it's just okay, I play passive if I can't see them, and if they start trying to turn, then I play aggressive and try and push them back, and then I walk back, and it's pretty simple, it's pretty easy to do. The last thing is a bit rarer, because usually you would only really care about this if you're a flanking DPS rather than a tank, but depending on the circumstances, you might want to keep space if it could be a useful flank route for one of your teammates. But you might notice that this stretch of land right here is none of these things. It is a poor angle for your teammates because they don't have access to cover, but the enemy team does, and it's a long sight line, so whoever's got better cover is going to have the better situation. It is a bad flank area because, well, there isn't really a flank to be had here. The most you could do is flank from here, big air quotes, flank. And it's not really a high ground, obviously. It's not high ground. I just realized I don't think I mentioned high ground, but I meant to mention high ground as another option. There's no high ground for you to take here. I mean, there is over here, but you already have that high ground if you want it. You enter that high ground from over here, where you already have that part of the map, so you don't need to fight for it by fighting for this area. So yeah, you get my point basically. By standing here, this would be good if anywhere around you was a single spot that anyone in your team actually wants to be in. But no one wants to be anywhere even near here. Not even one of your teammates wants to be here. In fact, unfortunately, your supports would probably rather be here. But do you see the problem with this? In fact, I think your support started from here, but they dropped because you walked forward and tried to play at the payload. So, they can't heal you. So, the smart thing for them to do would have been to jump on the billboard and turn the corner and heal you from the billboard. But obviously, at Gold 5, you're not going to have people that know the parkour, that you can get this little route. Or maybe they did try and do that and they fell off, I don't know. Point being, you're making it hard for your supports to heal you once again, and you're making it hard for your DPS to really do much either, and you're making it hard for yourself. And it's all for no real reason. Having said all that, believe it or not, I do have a point here. Let's watch Brig's perspective here. So, Brig is keeping an eye on everyone, and they're like, oh, you're in trouble. And he's like, you can really keep fighting here. But, oh, sorry. Honestly, this is going too quick. Okay, wait, I should have paused it there. So, Brig is, trying to keep everyone up. It's like, oh, wow, you're really fighting here. You're not giving this up. You're not coming back. You really, really want to fight here. Okay, I guess I must have misread the situation. If the tank really wants to fight here, then I suppose I should walk up and help them. I'm not really doing much right now. Well, they were trying to kill this Moira, so I guess I'll try and kill this Moira. Oh no, she faded away. Huh, wait, where's my tank? Uh-oh. Wait, the tank's behind me? Ah! Dead. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying that this Brig is actually playing perfectly and it's all your fault. Yes, obviously, it was a little dumb of her to just walk out like that. It was also dumb of her to not turn her shield towards the enemies so that she could actually block the damage, because she's too brain-locked by, oh no, my teammate is low, let me throw a heal pack instead of focusing on not dying right now. I think she didn't think you would just leave her. Like, I need to watch this again from your perspective to see if you can actually clearly see what happened. You definitely see the brig. I don't remember... Do you see her die, or do you just see her get in trouble? Like, you see her bash the Moira. Okay, you see her die out the corner of your eye, but I'm guessing with the tunnel vision issue, you might not have spotted that. Yeah, so, like, you walk away at the worst time here, because, like, again... It is a mistake on this brig's part. She shouldn't do this. But, like, she's doing this because she's like, why is the tank here? Why is he still here? He really wants to take this fight. Maybe I'm misreading the situation. I feel like the tank shouldn't be playing here, but I'm not a tank player, so I guess I'll just do my job and support him. I guess I'll come help him. Bombs away, and then, sure enough, she goes to help you, and you're like, oh, well, actually, new toy, let me run this way, and, yeah, you just, like, let her get eaten by the wolves, which is... You see, this is why it's not even literally just, like, your positioning... Because, again, your positioning isn't that bad there. I know we just had this big spiel about it, but like I say, it's pretty standard for gold. Like, obviously, I would say you need better positioning than that if you want to climb, but I wouldn't say, like, that is particularly bad positioning for the rank you're at right now. But, like... It's a great example of why I think it's so important to keep in mind what your what you intend your supports to do as a tank. Like, have an idea, what do I think my supports should be doing right now? Obviously, you're not always going to be right. Obviously, you're not always going to have the full picture. But even just taking some time to even consider, well, if I was the Ana right now, where would I be? If I was the Brig, what would I think I should be doing? Because especially if you're in a game with no comms, people are just, like, going off of, like, social cues and, like, just you pushing in at certain times. And I think that's what that Brig is basically doing, is like they genuinely are trying to be a good teammate here. They are trying to be like, oh, I guess I haven't been helping this Ramattra enough, I've been playing things too safe, I guess I should go help out and contribute. And of course it just kind of blows up in her face, because quite frankly, I know this is support advice, not tank advice, but one thing you got to learn the hard way by playing this game a decent amount is that the smartest idea on support is that if a tank starts feeding, you just gotta let them feed and hope that they realize what they're doing and come back before they die. You don't chase them. You don't go in with them. Because all that's gonna happen is you're gonna die too. Or sometimes you'll die, but the tank will get out. But, like, it won't even be worth it. Because they'll just lose the next team fight because you're dead. So, like, just generally speaking, because even if you're not going to play support, again, because I'm asking you to imagine what a support should do, while I'm not saying supports are going to do this in your rank, a lot of supports are going to put their lives on the line to try and bail you out, even when it's a stupid idea. They're trying to help, but they're actually making a misplay. I do want to let you know that typically, like, if you're playing someone like Ana, and, like, let's say, for example, the Ana is on the roof of Big Earl's, and they're over here, and you're playing this corner to start, and then randomly you pop Nemesis form and you run in, and you're, like, trying to spawn camp them, and the Ana's still here. Generally, best practice is for Ana to just keep sitting here and just hope that you come back, and if you don't come back, tough luck. Like, if you're a good support, typically you don't react by, like, oh, my tank is feeding and inting directly into enemy spawn. Let me jump off the high ground, walk out, make myself a sitting duck, and put everything on the line for a chance to bail out this guy who's making a really stupid play. Usually, you just go, well, I hope he comes back, because if he doesn't, I'm not bailing him out. It was a long time ago now, basically at the start of Overwatch 2, but I had to learn that lesson the hard way. Because at the start of Overwatch 2, it used to be a lot more difficult to play support, which, by the way, I actually liked, and I want them to bring back. But either way, I remember I went from going nearly deathless in most of my games in 6v6 to literally feeding my brains out and often having 13 or 14 deaths every game in 5v5 when I first dropped, and I'm like, what the hell? And the big reason why was because I wasn't used to games where I could be hunted down that well as support, and on top of that, I still had the mindset of, oh, if my tank gets in trouble, I should probably just drop everything and jump off the high ground and run at them like a headless chicken trying to save them. It was a rough way to learn, but to be honest, it was probably good for me because I learned pretty quick. Alright, and to end this off, let's take a look at your Orisa gameplay, because I must admit, I didn't really look at this too hard. I watched it once, but I didn't really scrutinize it all too much. But it did seem like you were better on your Orisa. So the shield pick is a good perk. The shield perk is a good pick, because of the long range sightlines and all that. I like that. Yeah, okay, I was about to say dropping off the high ground there is a little questionable, but it's not too bad because you're Orisa. If you're any other character, I'd probably go hard on you for that, but, I mean, you're probably going to end up playing here in a moment anyway, so it's fine. Nice spear. Here, okay, this is another good example, right? Here, shooting tank is fine. Shooting tank is fine. And the reason why isn't because, like, shooting tank is actually more valuable. Like, if it was feasible, it is more valuable for you to be shooting supports right now. But I like you shooting tank here, because where would you have to be to shoot supports? You'd have to be here. And also, you'd have to hit that shot, and hit a lot more of those shots. Without spear as well. Like, maybe if you had spear as a long shot, it might be possible, but, like, yeah, you're not killing the Zen. So, not to mention that to be able to have the opportunity to, if you are insanely good at your shots and insanely lucky, kill the Zen, would be to stand here. And you might notice that if you did stand here and face this direction, you're going to get speared into a wall. So, I like the fact that you're shooting tank here. I just want to like emphasize this because I feel like this is like a point that like gets miscommunicated so hard. It is fine to shoot tank here. The angle you have only allows you to shoot your tank, which does suck. However, the angles you could take to allow you to shoot the supports, they are just not feasible right now. Maybe if you have cooldowns, or maybe if you're able to take a flank, but right now, first of all, you're Orisa, you're not taking a flank. And as I say, as well as that, you don't have any cooldowns, so now is not the time. Right now is the time for you to be shooting tank, and that's exactly what you're doing, and look at it, it's working just fine. And thankfully, because we got the nade and because we got the wall, big value. No idea why we Okay, my best guess is you speared the ground there because you got your buttons mixed up, because you did immediately shield afterwards. I would still say that shield's a little bit far back, but that's generally where it should be. Like, I know this seems small, but like, I would probably put that shield like here, not like here. I know the wall was like not broken at the time, but it was nearly broken, so you only need to shoot a couple bullets and then it would break. But yeah. Anyway. A little preemptive on the shield, but it's not too bad. I don't mind that shield. Even though it's early, I think that's a situation where it's good to do it early. Okay, this is a small... Again, the mistakes here are much smaller on Orisa. To be fair, part of that is that she's just an easier character, but even still, you're definitely playing Orisa better. That spear, first of all, goes into the payload, and second of all, you're aiming it at the Zarya, who might just have another bubble. I think she used a bubble earlier, but I don't think she used two. I should double check. Yeah, she hasn't used both her bubbles. She had a second one ready, so that spear could have been bubbled even if you didn't miss it, so I wouldn't have gone for that spear. And then as well as that, let's watch this again. So you spear into the payload, you shield. I like the shield. But then you immediately fortify. Why are you fortifying when you have a shield? You fortify when you don't have a shield, or when someone walks through your shield. But no one's walked through your shield yet, and it's especially questionable because it might not be so bad if you hadn't taken the perk that gives you extra health when you fortify, because the extra health is very short-lived. So you actually get less bonus health if you hit fortify early. If you hit it as late as possible, you effectively get more HP. So you want to be hitting that fortify as late as possible. I mean, that's already good practice anyway on Orisa, so to ration out your cooldowns as much as you physically can. This is just a bad fortify. Thankfully, you don't get punished for it. You probably should like pay attention to the Reaper ping, but like we're good. We'll play the corner like we should. Ooh, we looked at the ground to try and drop a shield before the shield is off cooldown, and it was only a second off, so I get it, but, like, you should be paying attention to that. Like, let's just watch that back in slow motion. I'll put it in slow motion in a second, because obviously 10 seconds is a bit long. 4, 3, okay. Let me put it... 2, 1, and look, you're trying to put shield down and it's not ready. And now it's ready. And it just does mean that you lose, like, an extra 150 hit armor or so that you didn't need to lose. Because you were just looking at the floor, so just it's not the end of the world, but just be a bit more careful. Oh, and you hit fortify while your shield is still up again. Okay. Ooh, I might have to revoke the you're actually playing Orisa decent card, because like now that you actually have to be good with your cooldowns. Once again, it's the cooldown management. It's really bad. And then another spear into the no. Okay. So just like Ravenous Vortex. Spear is something you want to try and use, first of all, when an enemy has used an ability that would make it hard to hit spear. So you don't throw a spear at a Moira, but you throw a spear at a Moira with no fade, if you know what I mean. You don't throw a spear at a Genji, but you might throw a spear at a Genji with no dash or deflect. So you don't really just want to walk up to someone who, as far as you know, has all of their abilities and just throw a spear, unless their abilities don't have anything that would eat, reflect, or dodge the spear. The other thing as well is that because of the fact that you have to predict the enemy's movements to hit your spears, you don't shoot them where they are, you shoot them where they're going to be. As I've already mentioned before in previous videos on other Orisa players, and as a general rule when firing any projectile in Overwatch, it's best to fire them in situations where you have an idea of where the hell the enemies are going. I know that sounds really obvious, but like, watch this back, and can you tell me that you had any idea where this Moira is going? I think it was a Moira you're trying to aim at. Okay, so you drop the shield, and this is at 10 times slower speed. Do you know where this Moira is going? It looks like, to me, you thought she was going to go right, and at the very least you react to the fact that she's actually going left, but by the time you react to that, having to flick your crosshair like that just makes it go into the payload. So yeah, I just want to point that out, because it's like, have some patience with it, have some discipline, don't just hit your buttons because they're there. Also, you ignored a sleep ping in the back, but it's fine. Man, you really just get to walk up and ult there, don't you? That's a big nano. Oh, well, there we go. Okay. Being honest for a second, I know I already said it at the start, but, like, the more I watch this, I just don't get it. Like, you're just a DPS player. Okay, like, I just say that because, like, you can play whatever you want. Like, if you really think you're a tank player, then, like, you know, you can stick on tank. And obviously, if you get better at tank, I obviously think that's going to be a great thing. But, like, what I'm seeing is someone who can hit shots, but someone who can't manage cooldowns, who maybe you're okay on your positioning, like, serviceable for this rank, like, 90% of the time, but then 10% of the time you go off and, like, feed your brains out. Ult usage is a little sloppy. I don't know, I'd try DPS, because again, it seems like when you're playing these projectile characters, like, Orisa's gun and, like, Ramattra's, like, you know, staff, both of them are very powerful, like, very aim-dependent weapons for tanks, who usually don't really have many aim mechanics. Like, I look at this and I feel like I'm watching, like, someone who's supposed to be playing Hanzo or Junkrat or something. This is usually the part where I'd try to put together a summary, but, like, what do I say? Without, like, just recapping the entire video. It's kind of a little too broad. To be fair, I've been tempted to say this with quite a lot of submissions that I've gone through, but I've held my tongue for a while. But on this one, I think I might finally say it. This, in fairness, is now getting into an area where it's probably more my opinion than, like, what most people would agree with. But I'm going to be honest with you. I think you could really benefit from just taking some time to, just in quick play if you want, go play a bunch of other roles. I don't know if you're a solo tank player at the moment or if you've touched the other roles, but as I say, it seems like a lot of your issues is not really understanding what you need to be doing for your other teammates. And also not really understanding when they're doing things for you, and that's why everything's so easy, less so because you just popped off out of nowhere. I could be completely wrong, but personally I'm convinced you should spend some more time playing support. Not even saying it has to become your main role, but just play it a bit. I'm not even saying this is like a screw tanks. They don't know what it's like playing support. If anything, while there's definitely blame on both sides, I definitely feel like right now, supports, if anything, are a bit more delusional and uneducated about the tank experience than tanks are supports. But even still, no matter who you are, if you only have a lot of experience on tank or a lot of experience on support and you don't really know much about the other role, I think it's really important to get a grasp on what it's like on the other side of the fence. This could just be me because of the fact that, if you didn't know, while I try to be a jack of all trades in this game, I try to be good at everyone, I initially came into this game thinking I was going to be an Ana main. And I say thinking, I technically am, because Ana is still my most played, even if almost all my characters have relatively even playtime. But I actually didn't play all too much tank at first. I dipped my toe in it, but I never really planned to play it much. What I ended up discovering, though, was not only that I enjoy dive tanks a lot, not only that I wanted to learn how to play everyone in this game, so even non-dive tanks I played a lot of, but funnily enough, despite the fact that I have way more experience in support, I performed way better on tank. Like, I picked up tank really, really quickly, And I don't think that's because I had some kind of natural talent for tank. I think it was literally just because I'd played so much support, I knew what I hated to see in tank players. I knew when it was like, when a tank does this, I'm like, oh my god, man, why are you doing that? Why? This makes it so hard for me. And so when I played tank, I didn't want to do that to the supports. I didn't want to put myself in death traps that make their job really hard. I didn't want to leave them playing Dead by Daylight in the back line. And it didn't even really matter if I was a little bit behind on my general sense of how to play the role. And I feel like, honestly, that gave me such a significant boost, even if, at the time, I probably didn't have the best tank game sense straight away. Just the fact that I knew how to play with my supports, because I'd played so much support already, made it so that I took to tank really, really quickly and easily. In return, though, while at first I mostly found things that tanks usually did that was annoying that I was trying to avoid, eventually I even started noticing things that supports would do that would wind me up in Overwatch. And it came back around, and I got better at support because I played tank, and I realised the main thing I hated was not even necessarily supports that weren't pocketing me hard enough, but supports that would just play stupidly passive and just sit and wait for things to happen in front of them instead of getting involved. I didn't even particularly care that much if they were DPSing, I just wanted them to get involved and do something. Like, sure, I'd like more heals, but I wouldn't even be mad if the reason why my Alari isn't here to heal me right now is because she's currently on an off angle that's allowing her to take out the enemy backline while I'm, like, trying to hold the front line. If they're doing something, if they're getting active, if they're contributing to the fight, I didn't even care. The main thing that just wound me up were just supports that sat back, wanted everything to be done for them, and they think their only job is to hold heal on me, and so long as they're doing that, they can't be blamed for anything that happens. So I know this is a bit tangential, probably, but to me it just feels important. I'm seeing here a skill set that feels like it fits way more with a projectile DPS than a tank. And I'm seeing what at least I perceive to be a real inexperience with what it is supports expect from their tanks, and what it is you need to do to enable them. Oh, yeah, and one more thing that I'd like to cover just as we play this back at double speed, I guess, just so you can get a bit more of a look at the game itself. In case you are more curious about other tanks you could maybe try playing, I usually don't talk about this for most of the video, just because, while I'm fine to give advice on counter-swapping, I also know that people have their stances on counter-swapping. Because I'm a bit of a jack of all trades myself, I personally don't mind swapping, especially if it's more so to support your team comp rather than just counterpick the enemy tank. And I do think it's demonized a little bit too much. That being said, I mean, there's a reason why it's demonized. It is true that at low to mid ranks people counter-swap way more because they don't know what else to do. Though frankly, I think the opposite is also true, that people often like to undersell how bad it is for your team if you just are stubbornly sticking on a single character that is just terrible in a situation, just because you think, oh, I'll just be so good at this character that it won't matter that I'm useless in this situation. And I just don't think that's true. I think there's some characters where even if you're godlike on them, if you're just playing on a map where that character is useless, with a team comp where that character is useless, into a team comp that, like, destroys them, I think there comes a point where you being good at the character just doesn't really do that much anymore. Anyway, point being for this whole spiel is basically that sometimes I don't know whether I really want to say you should have played this tank, you should have played that tank, considering I don't want to tell people, screw you, you can't play this character, you need to play this character. But then sometimes people actually kind of want to know. I mean, I'm not that married to this character. I mean, like, what could I have done better? Like, if I could have just picked this character, do you think they would have been better? And if you're wondering what I think here, I don't think Ramattra is the worst pick here, but I do think just generally a rush tank kind of sucks here. This map has a lot of long sight lines that makes it really difficult for you, a lot of high ground to deal with, and they have Ana Zen. That doesn't just mean Ramattra, that means just about any rush tank. That means Mauga, that means Reinhardt, that means, depending on the playstyle, Orisa. You can play Orisa like a poke tank if you like. I personally like to play her like that more, but typically people play her as a rush tank, and I would say Orisa specifically as a rush tank, playing her in close quarters rather than playing her at long range. I feel like she's not that great here. So if you did want to play the swapping game, I would either have gone Sigma here, although that may have been a little bit tough into the Zarya, but you could give it a go and see how it goes. Sigma's very, very good on long sightlines maps, because he's the best shield tank in the game. Or you could always go for the ever-versatile dive tank. Of course, you've got a lot of options there, and personally I would say if you did want to play a dive tank, you should definitely go with Winston. I mean, if you can play Doomfist, Doomfist is fine too, or Ball, but like, they're also very, very difficult, so it's probably not what I'd recommend for someone who's already struggling. And that's not even to say that Winston's easy. He is a pretty difficult tank. It's just the way in which he's difficult is about skill ceiling rather than floor. he does have a very low entry point. It's just to actually play him at top level takes a lot of skill. But that's a good thing for you. That means if you pick up Winston, he's easy to approach, but also you're not limiting yourself. Like, if you pick someone like Orisa, they're easy to approach, but you're limiting yourself. There is just a much lower skill ceiling on Orisa. There will come a point where you can't really get much better at her, because she's just not a very deep character. But then, there's someone like Winston, and as simple as he is, he's got a very high skill ceiling, despite the fact he's very approachable and basic. So, Winston would be a great pick for a dive tank. D.Va and Hazard are also dive tanks you could pick, but I personally would probably lean against them, because they're already kind of like in a midpoint between rush and dive, and you're already like good on the rush tanks. You've got Ramattra. But yeah, Winston would have been great here. Winston is very good versus Zen, pretty good versus Ana, as long as you're careful about the sleep dart and the anti, but you have the bubble to counterplay that if you know what you're doing. Very good versus Sigma, is considered the best counter in the game to Zarya, and is pretty good versus Ashe. Either way, as I said, if you want to be a Ramattra guy, you can be a Ramattra guy. Just know that, obviously, you're going to have to get real good at Ramattra if you want to have to still play him in maps or situations where he's going to kind of suck a bit. So it means you're going to be held to a bit of a higher standard. Anyway, with all that said, thank you for watching. You see, this is what happens when I don't have a clear conclusion to make. I just ramble. But whatever, now it feels like it's concluded, right? No, but seriously, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.